one of the first things I want to talk about is drawing your subject. And whenever I did drawing on my subject, what I did, and I've done a lot of drawing, I would just simply look for the basic shape of the head and the angle of the head. You can see, do you recognize this person?
That was me on Friday.
Yeah.
This is me on Friday afternoon.
She got a haircut. They're both cute. So you can see there's just a slight tip to the head, and it's a very oval head. And then you have to think of the dimensions. So like the eyes are in the center of the head. So you would definitely start with this kind of a round shape. And then this part here would be also kind of slightly rounded. So like the earth, the earth isn't flat, you guys. So you have to kind of get the feel of that roundness. And then the way I learned it was to divide the bottom into thirds. And this is the center of the nose, and this is the center of the lip and the chin. And so then you do your eyes, and the eye in this case is kind of hidden, but the eye has a shape to it where it's higher here and lower here. And then you've got your under part of the eye, which is usually a little bit elliptical. And the eye itself is kind of hidden underneath. A lot of times people will put the full circle. Well, part of the eye is under the lid, unless extreme fright. And she doesn't look afraid to me, so I'm going to give her a little, I'm going to disappear. Then of course you got the center and some shadow. And when you do the eye, it is one eye apart. There's one eye between the two eyes. So you've got your one eye apart, and then you're going to look at this eye, and because of the angle, with the highest point is right here. So that's what you're looking for. Where is that highest point? Because it's not just it's not a complete oval shape. It's usually a little higher, and then it's a little bit longer. And you can see the elliptical shape in this case under the eye, coming down. And then here we see almost the full circle of the eye. So I gotta pull this. And you thicken that upper line. So we've got the full circle coming in of the eye. And coming around here, the center and the shadow. There's so much shadow in the eye. And in this eye, it's completely in shadow. So, and then she's got a real interesting eyebrow. See how it comes down close to the eye and then goes up. And then we've got a little, you know, you always got to show a little bit of that bag under the eye there. Not too much. And we want to put a line to define that shadow, but don't do it. I don't want you to be defining any shadows. See, all of this stuff, we're not going to do that. And usually you see the second layer of skin above the eye. And when you're drawing the eyebrows, remember we talked about this yesterday, don't just draw an outline of the eyebrow, draw the actual hair and the gesture. That's the best way. And now this is the center of the nose. So now you're looking at this, the lower nose, and you're forming, I've got to learn all these names. Some people know all the names for this stuff. This is going to define the other part of her nose. And that's the center, the way I like to do it, in thirds. And then this is the part, I can't remember, some people know the name for this little thing. Does somebody know it?
Is that frenulum?
I don't know.
Frenulum? I don't know.
Say it again.
Is that frenulum?
Frenulum. Write that down. That sounds like it might be right. That was something I wanted to research so I could really impress you guys. But I didn't do it. Now the most important line when you're doing a lip is that center line. That center line has all the expression in it. So if you look here at the center line, see how it goes down and up, down and up again? So that's what we're looking for. And then that upper lip, a lot of people draw little circles like this to form that lip. And then that gives you that little lip dip there. And then down, little lip here, coming down. And then the bottom line of the lip is very important. And very often what happens is these edges, these lines here on the edge you don't even see them. And then we've got the chin coming down, and then you start looking now. When you come down from the center of the eye, that's how long that lip is. From the center of the eye down, that's how wide it is. And then you're looking for those expression lines in this case. And these lines here, and one over here. And then, of course, the best part is here where we've got the hairline coming down in this case. A beautiful gesture in the hair. So then I look, how thick is this? You can see it's, we're trying to get that expression there. And then her hair comes down over her eye, which is fun. So we're not really going to see much of the eye here. That's going to get pretty much covered by the hairline. But of course I had to put it in. What made you decide to change your hair?
It was kind of boring.
It sure was cute. Love it. Okay, so now you look for the gesture of the hair. And I often see this. People draw the hair like it's one solid line. And I personally prefer when you do it as just the gesture of the hair. And just look for those lines. And then it all becomes, okay, where does this start? And if you think about it, it's sort of across from her lip line, so that it's all relative. You start looking for these relative things. Where does this one start? It's a little below. See that? It's just a little bit below. So we'll start here. That relationship looks good. And then it's really fun just to come in, again, get the gesture of the clothing. And I like to put more emphasis on one side. See, this is really nice. You have a strong shadow side, a strong light side, and that's really important. And so you can see in here, a lot of these lines don't even exist. Whereas over here, you see all the shadows and details. So that just paint it that way. I think that's half the fun, is to have all those differences. Okay, now we're going to get rid of some of the lines here, and it's just a case of, how many corrections can we make. We don't need this eye showing. And what do we do about the wrinkles? See, they're very expressive because see, she's tipping her head and kind of. So I think the wrinkles in this case aren't indicating age or anything.
No,
It's all expression. So I would actually put those in. And see, and the hair goes right over the eyes. I love that part too. Oops, that's carrying it a little too far there. And then when you're done drawing, I tend to press pretty hard. With this kneaded eraser, you can just kind of touch it like this. It doesn't abrade the paper. If you need to really clean up, you can do this line. This does clean up really nice. Sometimes after this gets really soft in your hand, you can, if you have a lot, let's say you trace the image, you can literally just roll this over when it gets round. And now we've got to make adjustments. It's hard to get a likeness. I didn't really expect to get one, but what I do is I just start looking now for the adjustments. And I think one of the things I could adjust is, I think I put a little weight on here. She's a little, her face is a little thinner. And that helps. And whenever, and if things don't work, so you just add more hair. I think more hair is gonna save it all. Now there's another way to do the breakdown. So let me repeat again. Eyes are halfway. And then I've always done it by dividing the bottom into thirds. So 1, 2, 3. Center of the nose, center of the lips. And I find it quite effective. I've been drawing like this for a long time. Now another way to do it, and I saw this on the internet, it's pretty incredible, where you divide it, you take like 8 inches, and it's divided into 7 units. So the middle here is this is the center line. And so you have 1, 2, 3, 4 units the center, 1, 2, 3, 4 units in the center. And if you count all this, there's 7. And so what I did was I made one of these, and I have one for everybody. And it's this unit.
Oh, nice.
So you can just put this down. And this is how I actually planned, actually I reduced it a little bit. This is how I planned to do her, by simply positioning this on the paper and then marking off these units, which is pretty cool. So marking off these units, and then using this as the guide. And the cool thing is, the very center, according to the way they do it here, this becomes the top of the eye line. This becomes the bottom of the nose, the bottom of the lip, and the bottom of the chin. And it's an amazing way to do it. Here's my granddaughter. It's this unit on top of my granddaughter. And then this is the top of the eyes, the bottom of the nose, the bottom of the lip, the bottom of the chin. And it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. So I was quite pleased with this arrangement. So now using that guideline, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here would be the center. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but I'm just going to very quickly indicate this. So again, you would look for the gesture of the head, making it come down this high and up this high. And because her head's in a down position a little bit, there's actually going to be a little hair over the top of it. And this line, 2, 3, 4, right between this line is the eye line. And then this line here is the bottom of the nose. This line here is the bottom of her lip. And it would be the same thing again. You would do the eyes, and then you would come down, and this would be the bottom of the nose line. So you go up from there, up. This would be the bottom of the lip. So then you would come in and draw the center of the lip. And the eye line is the same. You've got your eyes, but this time it's going through the center of the eyes. And so I think either one of these methods are pretty cool. And you can see how quickly the proportions are there. Now, I know people who can just draw, and I used to do this a lot, where you just start with the eye, go to the nose, none of this proportioning ahead of time. But I think you have to start somewhere. So I would recommend, when you want to start getting into drawing your own, start with this concept, or more simply, this is what works better for me, is the eyes, the center of the eyes, center of the nose, center of the lips, and the chin. So we're not too worried about this, but I did want to cover this. in our, because I would encourage you all to do your own drawing. It's a really, really exciting thing. Now, when I first started doing portraits, I used to do my I didn't know how to trace. People had to teach me how to trace. So here's what I came up with. Do you remember this? We used to draw on the plastic. So we would put this plastic over our image, and with a pen we would draw the major lines. Then we would put this on a light box and trace it. And I thought that was pretty cool. I have to say I did enjoy that method. And the other way is to put the actual image on the, I know why we did that, because this was 300-pound paper. Yeah, so remember we did this? The hard thing was remembering which way the picture was, because people would reverse it. See, you have to remember the picture. Was it this way or was it this way? And so now using carbon paper or the light box, we're on our way. So I've got my buddy here. Oh, there he is. Fritz, baby. So the first thing I like to do is spend a lot of time with the drawing. And some of you I know have done a more minimal drawing, less graphite, but it's whatever works for you. I prefer a lot of graphite, and I like the drawing to be part of the painting. And then in terms of what colors to use, this is a big deal. If you're doing just a little babe, a little kid, then you're going to want to use softer colors. And so what I want to do is work with just mixing up the first wash that I call the mother wash. And you have to decide what's going to be appropriate for what you're drawing. I know a lot of you are doing your grandkids. In that case, I would recommend areolan yellow. Areolan yellow is a primary yellow. It also is a yellow that is liftable. So if you get too much yellow somewhere, you can lift it out. I would avoid Windsor yellow because it's a staining color. And if we keep this whole portrait lesson to non-staining colors, that means we can lift out anything that is unpleasing to us. Now for your other color base, I would recommend either quin coral or permanent rose. And the coral is a little oranger, the permanent rose is a little pinker. Either one works. So you would take a little yellow, take a little of the coral, and there is a lovely skin color for a little kid. Or you can take a little areolan and the permanent rose, and again, either one of these are really a nice skin color. My favorite is the quin coral. I really like this. So this would be perfect for little kids. Now, Fritz is not a little kid. So what I'm going to do is use raw sienna. Now raw sienna is an earthier color. I use this. It's a transparent color. It glows. And it's not a primary. I love it. It's just a little earthier. I use this a lot on my buildings when I'm traveling. And it's perfect for a base for an older person. And then I'm still going to use my quin coral to make my mother wash. So it's between the yellow and the coral, and this is going to be the mother wash. And I have a handout for you. What I recommend is each of these steps we're going to go through. And on the first one, of course, you can correct the 300-pound arches. I've changed it to a 140-pound cold press. And I think it's real helpful before you start each of these steps to read it. Especially number 2 where it says prepare a mother wash. And Dave will agree, you have to wet the face before you start. And if you don't wet the face,
Red.
you're in a lot of trouble, because the color soaks immediately into the paper, you cannot lift it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you're gonna see that happen right now. So using this base, and I'm going to, if you have a lot of skin, let's say your subject has an open top, or it's a little kid, and you've got arms and all that, make this mother wash big enough that you don't have to mix it again, because you'll never get the same combination. So
Karlyn,
just,
I'm sorry, I got distracted passing papers.
Yeah.
You were using raw sienna and what color yellow for the older person?
Quin coral and raw sienna.
Okay, thank you.
And then, once you get your mix, you add a lot of water to it. I've got enough for Fritz, but like I say, check your paper. If you've got a lot of skin showing, you make this batch big enough, because you're not going to be able to reproduce it exactly. So, now the next thing we want to do is have absolutely clean water, and we're going to wet his face. And I think what I'll do is come in a little closer here, so you can see what I'm doing. So I want you to see Fritz, and I want you to see what I'm doing. So how's that?
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay, most important, I'm going to wet this face. And see, you want everything going into the skin line to be very soft too. So I'm gonna wet right into the hairline, the hairline and the skin. This is one of the hardest areas to deal with. So these areas have to be soft, and there's a lot of shadow here. The hardest thing, other people have painted Fritz recently, and the biggest problem they had was getting the hairline to melt into the skin tone. He looked like he had a toupee on a few. So you gotta get that in there. And I'm gonna wet the neck. So the neck, any exposed skin at this point is going to be wet. I mean really wet.
Even arms and shoulders?
That's right.
And the eyes too?
And the eyes, I have no masking. Everything is wet. See, look how dark the eyes are. A lot of skin tone is reflecting into those eyes. Now the only thing I did that I haven't told you about is I actually put a little bit of masking on a few of these areas here. See those few hairlines and that light on his glasses. I wanted to save that. Okay, so now I'm going to take this mother wash and just put it on pretty much the whole thing. Just whip it in there. Decided I want to.
It does.
Yeah, this is fun. So you put this in.
So what if you have teeth?
Over the teeth, over everything.
Do you mask the teeth?
Don't mask the teeth.
Don't?
Don't.
Okay.
Do not. Nope. So now we have covered it all. And then on this side, there's a lot of bounce light from a shirt. It's actually quite a bit warmer. So I'm going to take a little bit of this pure color. This is my quinacridone coral. And I'm going to put a little bit more onto that side of his face, that side of his nose, and basically this side. So can you see how I put just a little bit more warmth in there? If you see that in your picture, you're going to want to do that. Now here's where the fun comes in. Using a flat brush, and the stiffest brush you have, do not use a synthetic. Do not use a sable. It has to be synthetic. So we're going to clean this really good so it's dry, and we're going to lift away. Look at, is that fun? So now we're going to lift away all the areas, like I'm going to lift the eye. It's very light there. And it will run in again. Just get over it. Keep lifting it out. The bottom lip needs it. Under the chin, we need it. Over here. Across here. I love doing this. By the time you're done with this, it almost looks finished. And for some of you who have very few shadows, this could be all you need to do.
Would you lift out the teeth if that was?
I would definitely lift out the teeth. There's a little light reflected in his glass there. You can see how it keeps rolling back. The color keeps rolling back on his nose and the eyes. So this is, you just keep doing this until it stops. So I want this side lighter. It's a little bit lighter on the chin here. Here. Now you can also use a 1/4 inch. This is a much smaller flat brush, also synthetic. This is the one made by Karlyn. It's an Irish made brush. I have some, they're really nice. And see this little 1/4 inch size is really strong. So I'm just gonna come in here and keep lifting. See, there's some real interesting lines up here where he's making these expressive lines. So you can see how I'm actually now getting a feel for the shadow and the sun side. And this is really, really fun. And always the bottom lip. There's always light on the bottom lip. And then over here. Now it keeps rolling in. You just have to keep doing this until it soaks into the paper, and I'm almost there. There's a little bit of bounce light here. You can see on this side of his chin, there's, not his chin, his cheek. There's a little bit of bounce light in there. Oops, I'm adding color instead of taking it away here. I gotta be careful. Make sure your brush is really clean when you're doing this. Keep cleaning it, and it's completely dry. The thirsty brush. So I think that's it. We're gonna let this dry now, and then we'll get on to the next step. Now remember I talked about how important it is to have that lost edge. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in, I wet my brush, shake it out, wipe it off really good, and just come in like this and soften all those lines going into the hairline. Don't leave any hard areas there. All the areas going into the hairline need to be softened.
Karlyn, did you lift out a lot where there's shadow on the one side of the lighter? Did you lift those shadows out?
Just now, right here. With this brush,
Yeah,
I
but
lift,
I'd like right where his smile line is, right at the bottom. Did you lift those out, or do they just come out because you're lifting a lot on the, right below his glasses on the, not the shadow side, the other, the
Over
light
here?
side.
I just
Nope,
lifted this.
Nope, I'm talking the other side, right below his glass. There's a lot of real shadow where his smile line is, yeah. Do you leave those in, or do they come out and you?
I'm not worried about any shadow lines yet.
Okay,
I'm gonna paint those in later,
okay, that's all right.
so it's okay if I do lift out,
Okay, that's all right.
because I am gonna paint over it. Most important thing is to get a nice difference so that you do have a shadow side and a sun side, and you've got a skin tone that you like. I used to have you put yellow on the shadow side and
Yeah.
red on the other side, and too many people ended up with jaundice. So I don't do that anymore.
So can we say that when you first lay on your skin tone, it's more like a mid-tone color, and then you do the
Lift
lifting,
it to the light.
and then you get the dark and the shadow later
Right.
on. Okay.
Now, when we do the shadow, it's a big deal. I'm gonna mix a mixture with, you can read ahead in this little thing, but the mixture is going to be with Quin Burnt Orange and probably my Quin Coral again. And that's going to give me, see, then I'm gonna be working into these shadows and developing all these darks. It's about a 40% darker color. So, see, this is the beginning. This is the first wash where you're getting these nice lights and just a soft, warm tone. And now it isn't until we get to the darker values that you really start seeing the features. So that's the whole purpose. We are now moving on to step number 3. And this is the one that really, really, really pulls it together. It's the shadow color. And just in terms of a judgment, I suggest that it be 40% darker. But what's 40%? I mean, it's just gotta be darker. And you have to gauge it depending on the individual that you're painting. So many of you have young children, you're definitely gonna wanna do with less than 40%. So make a judgment what you think is going to be that shadow color. And others are going to definitely need the 40% to get that full effect. Like in my case, I definitely needed it. This is a very strong shadow. So you'll be seeing that. I just want to show off some of these lovely under paintings. Look at the nice job she did. And this is 97-year-old aunt. And so I told her what a great job she did. She said, we'll see what the cousins think. They're going to be the final judges. And this is, oops, let's get Fritz out of the way here. This is very nice. Isn't that great? This is Josie. And this is Tigger.
Tegan.
Tegan.
The
Tegan.
Teagues.
But see, she really has given us a beautiful glow on this skin tone. You're just almost feeling the sun, and I think it's going to be great when the shadows are added. I would take a minute to soften some of the edges here going into the hair. The hairline's very, very important. All those edges need to be soft, otherwise the hair just looks like it was stuck on the head. Doesn't look like it's part of the body. And this is a really gorgeous interpretation. I love this.
Oh, nice.
What's this gal's name?
Julie.
Julie, and that's your daughter. And see, some of the tones on the teeth, you go, oh my gosh, look at all the color left on the teeth and the eyes. But you would not believe, a lot of times people put masking on the eyes and the teeth, and it's like, ooh, there's a lot of shadow. Those teeth are inside a mouth, the eyes are set back in a socket. So, and then there's reflective light from the skin. So there actually are a lot of warm shadows on the teeth. So we'll see. If she feels, if the daughter says, no, wait a minute, my teeth aren't that yellow, she can lift it. Because remember, we're using colors that are liftable, non-staining. And this looks great. Look at the beautiful warm tones. So see, it's really fun. Some people got more yellow in their mixture, some got more red, and it all works. I think this looks great. Again, I would soften a few of those edges going into the hairline. And here where the hair is coming into the skin tone, just definitely soften those. You can do that with your half-inch flat brush, dampen it, wipe it dry, and then just get in there and work it. It'll soften.
Karlyn, can you wet the little area that you wanna lift? Does
No.
that help at all?
Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. Just wet the brush. This is a pretty incredible start. This is Wyland's daughter,
She lives in Hawaii, that's why her skin tone is darker.
and she's Asian, so her skin tone is darker. And I think it's just amazing, an amazing start, Wyland. You can see where she softened the hair, and she's left her teeth really white. So we'll see if she has to tone them later. But a wonderful start. Congratulations, all of you. And so now we're going to move on to the next big step, and that is mixing this much darker tone. And I've indicated on that handout the colors I think are important. And of course it changes on a black person, Asian person, they all have different formulas. I'm pretty much just doing a Caucasian today. The combination I like to use, and this is for an older person, but I think this would work for a child too, is quinacridone burnt orange. And you could also use, if you don't have this color on your palette, you could use burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is a clay color dug out of the earth. That's what the cavemen used. And it's a very heavy color. It tends to, in a mixture of colors, it tends to sink. And a dye-based color, if you mix it with a dye-based color, tends to float away. So I really like the store-bought dye-based color because it mixes well with other colors. And what I'm going to do is mix it with some Quin Coral. I'm gonna go with the coral. Now, again, you can use permanent rose. Do not use alizarin crimson. That is a staining color. It's what I used to use, and it just gave us nothing but grief. It was very hard to lose the edges with the staining colors. It soaks in, stains, you're trying to lift it away and you can't because it's soaked in and stained the paper. Now these are both non-staining. Oops. So we're going to just stay with this. And what you have to do is you have to mix a lot of this. And I really shouldn't have done it on the middle of my palette. I usually, see this is another Fritz over here. I usually do it where I can keep it separate. And then one Christmas I painted all my grandkids. So I had, at that time, 7. So I had 7 little bottles. I just bought those little jars that jam used to come in. And just mix the colors in there, and they got their name on there. We had Tyler and Jordan and everybody. And the thing is, when you have to have enough of this mixture to get you through. There's no way that you're going to be able to mix it and match it. Seriously. Not a good idea to mix these on top of your image. Let's not do that. Oh, dripped all over it. So lots of water. In this case, I want a lot of the Quin burnt orange. And what I'm trying to do is mix this tone right here.
No, that's not the darkest dark.
This is, for the skin tone, it's going to be the darkest dark.
But not
And-
the shadowing part like on theirs was.
Okay, here's what happens. You mix one big batch, and then when it dries, you go back over to do those extra darks. So it's 2 layers of the same color, but there's not a third layer.
Okay.
It's many layers over and over of the same color, building the color up. And you can see how warm it is. How warm do we want to make it? But you want to definitely, in this case, it's a lot of dark skin tone, make enough to do it. And it's more of the Quin burnt orange and less of the red. I think I'm pleased with this color. And just to be safe, I'm going to get these out of the way. Thank you. So just to take a quick peek at this, this is the color. And see, it's going to dry a lot lighter. So when I compare this color, you can see the difference there. When I compare it to the subject, yeah, that's going to look good. And it's also going to dry 18 to 20% lighter. So let's get started. This is a big task. This is going to be keeping you busy for quite a while. So what we want to do now is, I want you to be able to see this. It's so fun to be teaching portraiture with this amazing situation where I have good light. Last time I taught portraiture, no, 2 times ago, I taught portraiture on a cruise boat, and it was a rough day. And we were literally slamming down onto the waves. I'll never forget that. And we also had, it was on a Sunday and there was church going on the other side of the room. So they're singing hymns and I'm trying to teach people how to paint portraits. I'm going, oh my gosh. This is one for the books. Okay, so now when you do this mixture, it's quite dark, it's scary at first. You look for the major shapes, and you start with something small. Like I'm going to isolate this shape right here. I'm not going to look at anything else, just that shape. It's not like you do the whole side of the head at once. You do little sections, little sections. I'm using a number 10 round brush, also a number 8 would work, and a pointed round brush, synthetic. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at that shape. Now all the shadows we do with we didn't draw it ahead of time. So now I'm going to pull it right across the eye, and it goes down here. And it goes across the eye again and comes out over here. So see how we're just looking for the general shape. Now I shake my brush and I have a tissue handy to gather the extra moisture. I'm not wiping it dry like I did before. That was a thirsty brush. On this one, I'm literally taking off the extra moisture, so there's still a little moisture in here. And now I'm going to lose the edge. See, this edge here goes around the eye, so I start out here and I take that edge and just lose it into a nice lost edge. Take the extra moisture off, come down here, lose the edge, lose the edge. Up here, I soften this and I lose the edge. Soften, lose it. This is a hard edge, I'm gonna leave that edge hard. Now these edges need to be softened as well. This edge is quite hard and crisp, I'm gonna leave that. So you have to decide which edges need to be lost, which edges need to stay crisp. And actually his whole eye is quite warm. I'm gonna put more of that color, shadow color in there. And see, I'm probably gonna come back later and do another layer after this dries to get that nice dark.
So your paper has to be totally dry before
Totally
you do
dry,
another
yep.
layer?
Yep, and I just love most of my edges soft. So this is my first wash. It's a little bit lighter over the eye, so see how as it dries more, I can lift more of that color out. And I've got lost edges here, found edges here. Okay, let's move on to another one. This time, I've got the shape that goes around the nose, and it goes up to the glass. There's a cast shadow from the glass here, coming around here, and then it comes out here and goes around here, up to the lip line, and around the lip, down here, and down here. A little bit wider here, and a little bit wider here. So it would be easy if we had actually drawn in these edges, but what you don't want later is a line defining a shadow that where you lost the edge. That line just doesn't work. So am I gonna leave this like this? No. Am I gonna go ahead now and paint this other shadow?
No.
No, you're gonna do limited. So you look for the lost edges, and maybe we could even get in a little closer now. This is the beauty of this whole thing. So I'm now looking, wet my brush, shake it out, taking the extra moisture. There's still moisture in here. Now coming in at right angles, I wet this edge first, and then I sneak this in, and see that lovely color just rolls right out. And that's how you form the roundness of the features that you're doing. In this case, the cheek, the chin. Over here, we'll just soften this a bit. Over here, this edge is quite hard, but I still like softening. So I'm going to, this time, almost dry my brush and just come in like this and soften some of these edges, because even here, the skin is rolling around. That one's pretty crisp. The lip has definitely got to be softened and rolled a bit. So you can see now we're starting, it looks kind of strange, but we're starting to get some of these major shadow shapes. Okay, now I'm just going to do the little one on the other side of the glass. And this is a major one here. Now I got to go. I better wait. That one's still, this is still wet, so I'm gonna wait. And it's really fun to get in there and define like a neck. And so there's shadows on the neck here. And under here, where are we? Nobody will know if it's not right.
Fritz will.
Okay, so now we've got the major shadows on the neck here. And I'm just gonna, this is very, very wet. See, sometimes when you're working this wet, I can't just go lose the edge right away, I'll lose too much. So I'm just gonna give it a minute to soak in. And these do have fairly crisp edges. So I think what I'm gonna do is just soften this edge, because it's going around the neck. I'll soften this edge a bit. Soften this a bit. But for the most part, those are here, this one's a little soft. But when the edges are crisp, you just leave them crisp. Okay, now I'm going to do the hairline. So I'm gonna go down to the eye, so I'm looking at this hairline, this big shape up here. I'm looking at this big shape right here. So I'm gonna start at the hairline up here. Now I do have a few of these hairs that I masked. I'm gonna go along the hairline. I'll worry about losing it later. The most important thing now is just to get this major shape. And it kind of above the eye here. I've got a lot of paint on this brush. I'm just looking for the major shapes. Like I say, they don't have to be perfect. Nobody's gonna know when all is said and done. See, this doesn't look anywhere near dark enough. Amazing how dark it's gotta be. Too late now, we're just gonna keep going. Okay, so I'm gonna go down, I'm just gonna go as far as the eye. And across the eye here. And there's another weird shadow up here. Oh, I love it, right there. So I'm gonna do that much. Wet my brush, clean it out. Wait for it to soak in a little bit. Get the extra moisture off my brush. There's still a little in here. And see his brow up here is round. So these edges, you can just see them. They're very soft. So I'm just gonna come in, soften that brow line to make it look round. Of course, anything going into the hairline has to be softened. So we'll just quickly soften that edge, let it roll a little bit. And now these have to be, in some cases, lifted out and just round. And sometimes I'll even switch to my 1/2 inch flat. Did I loan that out? I don't know if I can find it.
On your left hand.
Here's one. I found one. Okay, this is that 1/2 inch flat Kalish. And see, when I really want to lift, in this case I do, I want to lift out a little bit more. Sometimes I'll switch to my flat lifting brush. But most of the time I want to stay with my number 10 or number 8 round. So again, I want to soften these edges. This is needs a softer edge. The eye here needs a softer edge. And of course this is way in the shadow, so this edge definitely has to get lost in the hairline. So it looks scary when you put it down, but when all is said and done, it starts to look pretty good. Now a lot of this color going into his hair, so I'm going to clean that up too. So I keep my 1/2 inch Kalish brush handy. And this is going to be melting into another shadow here. So see how I keep that edge soft. So we're gonna start now where I left off. We're gonna start with this edge right here. It's gonna go around the eye. It's gonna define this nose. And see, I masked that so I don't have to worry about it. I can go right over the glasses. And in this case, around the nose. All the way, following this line. So this is the major wash. And see, I'll be going over this again. But at this point, it's gonna end here. And the lip line, I'm gonna go across the lip line to define the upper lip. It's in half shadow, so I'll go around half of the lip, under the chin, coming out around the chin, and now defining this whole edge here. So see, that was fun. And now look at how bright that eye looks. That's gonna need a lot of toning. Okay, so now wet the brush, shake it out, and decide which edges are lost, which edges are found. And this is a fairly crisp edge here, defining the nose. This is a little bit softer. This needs to be softened a bit. The lip line almost always needs to be softened a little bit. This line needs to melt out, but this edge can stay fairly crisp. And see the chin line, you don't want that to be a hard line. Look at how soft it is. So this has to melt out into the roundness of the chin. That's a lost edge. So that's pretty good right there. All the rest are hard. We're gonna leave those. Now this needs to dry, so while I'm going to go, I'm just gonna let a little bit more of this color go into the eye and see how much shadow there is there. Okay, now this is dry enough that I'm gonna come back and do a second coat. The same color, a second coat. Because can you see how dark it is here? So you do the big major coat first. In fact, I'm gonna go to a smaller brush. This is such a tiny area. The tinier the area, the smaller the brush. So I'm gonna go into a little bit more dark here. Here. It comes around here, goes across the top of the eye, comes out here a little bit. And the only thing I have to soften is here. But here. And I would say a little bit here. And then down here now, we want it just a little bit darker, right here. So every time you just keep layering and layering the same color, and each time you do that, you're gonna build up the color. But I prefer to work with a color that's a little bit too light, and it requires a second coat, than to have one that's too dark. That's really hard. Now this is a really clean area. I need to lighten, take away the color here. There. Okay, now we've got that lovely cast shadow from his glass, and it starts right here, and it goes through the edge of his eye here to here. It has, notice how it has a little bend to it? And that's because of the roundness of his face. And it looks wider down here. Now another thing you want to notice is this line is crisp as it gets close to the subject.
Come down a little bit, Karlyn.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So as this line is getting close to the subject, it's much crisper. I made it a little bit too thick, but that's okay. And then as it gets here closer to the subject, it's actually kind of lost into some of these edges. So what I do is I frequently will turn this so I can get at this edge a little better. And I'll just soften it.
So amazing.
And this part here needs to be softer, thank you. And then as it gets closer, we're gonna leave it crisper. And this is true of trees, all kinds of things. The shadow close to the tree is very crisp. As it moves out further and further away, it diffuses. So it's kind of exciting to see this whole thing starting to come together. Now it's just these little guys. This little part in the chin, or the, whatever that thing is. I don't know what that thing is. And then it's darker under the chin, so we need a second coat here to define that. A little bit darker here. Again, keep your edges soft where they have to be soft. Just melt them in. And yay, the best part is now, the nose. See, now at this point, this is dry enough. You never want to do this if this is still wet. It'll start seeping in and you're going to have problems. And so it's drying very quickly. So now we're looking at the nose, and it starts about here, comes down, and then the tip of the nose, it sort of goes around the tip of the nose there. Okay, that's pretty much it. So now we're going to come in, soften the edge, definitely soften this tip where it's rolling around, and definitely soften this because the nose is rounded. So just a nice, clean, soften the line, and there you go.
Karlyn, why did you wait to do the shadow on the nose as the last, as part of
Because
the
I wanted
last-
this to be dry.
But why didn't you just do that all at one time and then just darken that line on the nose? Or I'm
That's a
just
good-
trying to figure out how you go about.
Well, I just decided that was all I could handle. That
Okay,
much.
so it would have been too much.
It would have been
at
just too
one
much for
time.
me to handle. But you know what, that is a good point. I probably could have.
You could have.
Yeah, I probably could have, and I guess I just think of the nose as separate from the, I like to keep these all
Okay, so
segmented.
that's, helpful.
Okay, so now, I would just sit and fuss over this and come back, and as soon as something's dry, I come in and do another coat. So you can see now the upper lip is darker, so I would come in and make the upper lip darker.
And you're
And-
still in the same colors.
Same color. And then over here, this is darker. So I just keep doing layer, more layers. And there's a light here. Now a lot of times you'll miss something. And so, for example, if I really want to, I can go in here and lift out a light that I probably should have lifted out in the beginning. And you do it with the stiffer, flat brush. And that's enough to come in, because these colors are all non-staining. So I can lift them.
Karlyn, do you find as you're doing this, that your paint is drying out, so you are getting more pigment. I mean, your paint actually gets more
Here?
concentrated.
Oh, yeah, that, it is.
As it dries.
Yeah, that's a good point, yes.
Because if you walked away from it and came back, your paint would be
Right.
much, much darker.
Yeah, you definitely should go to the bathroom before you start. Yeah, turn off your phone. That's a really good point. And I think this needs to be softened. So it's all about edge control. And I think after watching me paint this many, you certainly know that that's to be true. It's about edge control. So you have to use a synthetic brush. I recommend a number 8 or number 10 round brush to do these washes. And this is your next step. And I can come around and check that you're getting the right proportions. Now, I still want to save some of this, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this color to the other side of my palette here and let it dry. I'm just going to push this color over here to the other side of my palette. I don't think there's any other colors in there to get mixed in. And I'm just going to let this dry. So I gotta have a little bit more of Fritz's color to finish this.
Karlyn,
Yes.
something that I find really well to mix things is a Cool Whip lid.
Oh, the cover.
Yeah, cover.
That's
with
a great
Cool Whip.
idea.
And
And
then
for
I can
those of
save
you
colors.
with this palette, I would recommend cleaning this up and using it to keep it separate. Okay, end of that step. I can't stand looking at these subjects without a little color in their eyes. So I recommend if everything around it is dry, that you establish the basic color of the eyes. And if they're blue, you know, try a little cobalt. Green, cobalt doesn't want to be green. And so it makes kind of a nice hazel. He's got kind of hazel colored eyes. So I'm actually gonna take some cobalt and I'm gonna add a little bit of raw sienna to it. And see, it doesn't really want, it doesn't like to make green. I'm gonna add a little bit of a brighter yellow to it. All right, that's sort of a hazel, sort of. So we've got a little raw sienna, a little cobalt blue, and I'm just trying to make kind of a strange grayed down blue. So I'm gonna paint his eyes.
Can you zoom in a little?
Yeah, I'm just putting the color on there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So basically, his eyes are in the shadow. So I'm just gonna paint the top here really dark.
Sorry,
then-
but what color was that?
I'm making these a hazel color, so
Okay.
I just used cobalt and raw sienna.
Okay.
It's a strange green. But see, I don't want them to be a bright blue because they aren't. And see the bottom where there's more light, I'm just gonna pull down a little bit of that color. So that's it. I'm just putting a little bit of color in the eyes because I can't stand staring at blank eyes.
Right, but I mean, oh, it's more green.
I'm going to do more steps, how to paint the hair, how to paint the crevice darks, and there's a lot of fun coming up. And it isn't until you add the background that you really feel you've got a painting. So I just want to take a quick look at some of these underpaintings. I think they're looking fabulous. You can see the beautiful tonal washes. And these really don't come together until you start putting in background and contrast. But I just think it's really exciting to see these. Isn't it cute?
Little cheeks.
This is really nice. And see, a lot of times there'll be reflected light. And by using this layering process, if there were a blue tone reflecting in here, you just simply glaze some blue over it. So a direct painter would put that all in at once. And I wanted to be a direct painter one day. but it's too late. I'm a layered painter and I just have to enjoy it. But I really think you've done a great job here with your tonal washes, some beautiful contrast. This is gonna be darling when all the color gets in. And see, this is the next step. I think putting the eyes in really helps. So you can see how far this one has come along. Oh, that's really gonna be nice. And see, she's also got the energy of these stripes in the back and the textures and patterns on the clothing. It's really gonna make a change. We're doing very subtle things right now. Oh, this is nice.
Baby Lukey, that's.
Okay, now she's jumping the gun here, but she's done portraits before. But one of the hardest things we're going to be doing are what I call the crevice darks, where you really get in there and define the edges of the eyes, the crevices in the nose, the crevices between and under the teeth. So that really brings the face together. But it's something you have to be very careful. The edges have to be very soft. You don't want them to look like an outline. So we'll talk more about that when we get to the crevice darks. Oh, and this is so sweet.
Oh, Peggy, look at her.
This amazes me because I've seen the photo she's working from.
Peggy's granddaughter.
And you have really captured a likeness here. It's so sweet. This is your only grandchild, isn't it?
For a week.
For a week. Oh, yeah. That's right, the big event.
Yep.
And look at this, beautiful. This gal's got really dark curly hair. I can't wait to see this progress. And see, you're looking at, they don't have eyes, they don't have color on their lips, they don't have the rosy cheeks. So it's gonna change. And this is spectacular. This is really looking good. And some of these crevice darks just need to be softened a bit, but man, you're right on it, right on it. Great job capturing those shadows.
Whose is this?
This is Katie's.
And that's
Very
a good job,
nice.
Katie.
And you know, doing teeth, everybody gets so nervous doing teeth. It isn't that big a deal. You just paint in the gooms and then you have to put in some shadows. And that's basically it. Gooms and gums, I think it depends. Are gooms kind of Canadian or something? Minnesotan, oh. And look at, this is Katie. Painted by her brother. I think it's fantastic. And, well, what do you think, Dave?
Hey,
Dave, I think it looks great.
getting awful red there, I don't know.
Yeah, but he's really going for almost a cartoony approach with the clown. And, you know, again, when you get all those fabulous colors in there, the amazing thing is I see Katie in there. I do too. I think he's really captured you.
Nice.
With this eye, I need to talk to you about, it's a little bit tipped, but it's something we can fix. These are all liftable colors. And this is sweet.
Oh, no.
It's very nice.
Barb's.
And this one was off to a rough start because of the underpainting. And when she went to lift the colors, her paper was getting dry. So what's happening here is a little bit of blotchiness, but see, look at, it's all corrected now with those washes. And it just makes you look like a really loose painter. Who wants perfection?
I know.
I think it looks great.
Take a photo.
I really think it looks great. Oh, and this is sweet. Now, again, when you have some of the dark lines above the eye, especially in those dark crevice darks in the mouth, this is just gonna pop. Looking good. So we're gonna move on to the next step, and that's going to be probably the hair. You don't have to do, the first 3 steps you need to do in sequence, but the next steps you can do at any sequence you want. But I do want to do the hair as a separate thing. And you can see Fritz has got a lot of hair. Lucky guy. And it's also bushy and curly and quite light. So we're gonna have a lot of highlights, and we're going all the way with the hair in this case from about a value 8 to a value 1. So you want to get that contrast. And then we also want to eventually deal with, like I said, the crevice darks, and then there's the background and the clothing. So maybe I'm gonna skip to the background. Okay, so I'm gonna change my mind. Before I get into hair and clothing, I really like to be relating it to a little bit of background. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna wet the whole background and just get some tonal color down. Now you may choose to do yours all step by step. First the blouse, then the shirt, and then the background. If you want to, you can do it all separately. It depends on how precise you want it. But I kind of like things a little bit loose. So let me just show you some here. For example, when I did this one, I did the whole background with what we call that focus of light. I really enjoy using the primary colors. So like this is Aeolian yellow and Quin Coral and Cobalt blue. Those three colors, I use them a lot. They're non-staining. You can lift them if you want. So what I did is I wet this whole background. I actually didn't wet the shirt because the shirt was white. So I just wet all around here. And with the focus of light, I put the yellow on the sun side and the cool on the shadow side. That's simple. Sometimes that's all, I like it so much, I just keep that. And see, I like some of these warm colors coming through. I like reflected light all over the place. You can see there's some warm colors in the clothing here. And then at the very end, you can come in and get darker and darker. But just now to get some color down on Fritz, I want to do that. Here's another example of, I've got that thing on, but that works. And again, you can see how I wet the whole background, and I went for this focus of light. And in this case, because her hat was light, I brought this yellow through, and I made it darker up here. But if you'll notice, it's the same three colors: Aeolian yellow, Quin Coral, Cobalt blue. And when it's wet, the colors blend together. I even threw a little water at it to get some of those nice little drops. And I think it really was nice to have this passage of light bouncing this light back. And then as much as possible, I tried to repeat some of those color in her dress. So you see some of the same pinky tones, some of the same purpley grays. Very simple background.
Karlyn,
Yes.
I'm terrified of background, so when you did that, I mean, you didn't wet her arm and all the stuff?
No, I
right
went
at the top?
around everything.
You did go around everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I went around everything. So I was just working with the background. And then this background is basically just the light coming through. And a lot of times I like to melt the background into the subject if I can. In this case, the hairline. And then even here, where you have a passage from the shirt going into the subject, it's really nice to have those passages. You know how I'm always talking about the path of light? I literally think of that all the time in just about any picture. So let's see what happens when we wet the background here for Fritz. And we're going to, just to get some color down, because I really like having something to relate to. And I may decide to make a really dark background on this at some point. And I'm going to wet the hair too. So I'm going to go around and here up to the subject. So I went through the hair and just up to his shirt. And this is the sun side. So I'm going to start with my Aeolian yellow over here. And I always like to bounce just a little bit of that light to the other side, because even if the red and the blue mix with that yellow, it'll gray it down. Anything gray is going to push back the background. Okay, now we're going to try the Quin Coral. And I'm going to put some down here too. then I'm gonna go for the cobalt blue. Now the cobalt, I want the cobalt mostly on the cool side. And you can see because his hair is wet, all those edges are just blending into the hair. We like that. Have your sprayer handy in case those colors aren't moving enough. And then just keep pushing it darker if you need to.
Is that cobalt again right there?
Cobalt, yes. Okay, now you can see how it just completely changes the shadows, just that little bit, just starting to add some other life to the picture. I like that little bit of glow from the yellow that is coming in through here. And see, by putting the color down all pure, I really like this, where you're actually mixing the color on the paper, I'm mixing the color right on the paper and not on your palette. Now over here, this is a shadow side. So if you look over on the shadow side, all those edges are very soft. So see what I'm doing? I'm just going to soften that with a little bit of water and let that color kind of roll into. No matter what color I paint that shirt, it's all gonna work out. It's simply a little grayed down shadow side. But over here, when you look at this, those edges are crisp. So I'm not gonna soften the edge on the ear. I'm not gonna soften the edge of that. And I want the color to flow into the hairline because almost always the hairline's very soft. But there are a few of these hairs that are coming out. See that?
Is your background still damp?
Oh yes. And can you see some of these colors that are popping out? So now this is when you want to do, again, the lifting. This is when Wylan and I are happiest. We love lifting color. So I'm coming out with some of this color. I'm using that stiff brush again. I could use the half or I could use the one. But the idea is now I want to lift some of this hair that's coming out into the background. I might choose to go darker, but at least at this point I could lift it out. And you'll notice I also softened this edge on the shadow side. So that edge is bleeding into the body or the face line. It's bleeding here into the clothing. And this side, everything's fine. Now remember my hair was wet. I'm just gonna wet it a little bit more. And so for my first wash here, I'm going to come in with just some raw sienna. His hair isn't really a primary yellow. We all know that. His hair is going to be, the highlights are going to be more like a raw sienna. So I'm just going to put in a few of those highlights right now, plus leaving some of the white. So this is the beginning of the hair. I'm going to catch some of the highlights where I see them. Oh, it's got a little red in there too. And this is just raw sienna. And I'm just putting it in there where I see some of these highlights.
Do you have a preferred brand for raw sienna?
I do. I like Winsor Newton. Now there's somebody who knows their colors. After a while you get fussy about indigo, raw sienna, quin gold. Other colors seem to be pretty much the same in all the brands, but there are a few colors that really vary. And raw sienna is one of them, yeah.
I like Danielle Smith when I do building.
Yeah. So there you go. That's just a real easy solution for a background. And we talked about eye color earlier. So what I do when I'm doing the eyes is what I did just before I left. I kind of established, first of all, that base coat. And then I'm gonna come in now and do some of the crevice darks. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of them here, but I'll do the ones I have. So what I do is I take quinacridone burnt orange, and I just make a little puddle. This is quinacridone burnt orange. I'm going to use a script brush, which is a relatively small brush, because we're working just small area. And then I use cobalt blue for the other color. Now, if you really want a dark, you would use French ultramarine, but it's really unbelievable. But these very dark crevice darks in the face really don't have to be any darker than the dark you get with cobalt. I think it's a perfect crevice dark. So they're perfect complements. You can make this dark warmer, or you can make it cooler by the amount of either blue will cool it, when burnt orange will warm it. So we'll give him just a little bit cooler. And see, this is going to be good to form the dark pupil in the eye. And it's also going to form this extra dark layer above the eye here. And the dark in this eye. And I don't worry about that white highlight yet. That's something that I'm going to put in later with a razor blade. I just clip out what's really a hanging chad. And if I don't like it, I can just push it back in again. So now a lot of eyes have an outline, and you don't want to get too carried away with that. Some, like Ted, doesn't even let you put that in. He may have changed his mind by now, but I do like putting in a little bit of the outline. I think it really pops the eyes. So you can see now I haven't done any softening. I've just painted this on solid. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of time to firm up. And meanwhile, I'll just use the same color to come in and start painting the glasses, which are fairly dark. And remember now I got a little bit of masking. So I just paint right over the masking. And when this is dry, I'll just remove it. And a lot of times with glasses, there's parts that literally you don't see them, that, especially if they're not a real heavy frame. So if that's true in your case, and see, it's sort of true in Fritz's case, the darks here, the frames literally get lost. And you're just seeing the light here against the dark. Here you're seeing it as dark against the light skin. So it's kind of nice that we get to have that nice variety. So I'll just keep every layer, make this a little bit darker. So this is one of the fun things to paint. It really makes a big change. So by now, that dark color I put on there is going to be ready to be softened. So I definitely want it softer here next to the eye, softer where it bleeds into the rest of the eye, and definitely softer where it bleeds into the skin line. So I just, with this little brush, I can just soften and soften so that it just becomes more or less a shadow. But you don't want to do it too soon. Sometimes I even let it dry completely before I come in to soften it, because these are colors that lift.
And so then you wet your brush,
Oh, my brush, but not.
I mean, when you're going in to dry.
Mhm. Yep, when I come in to soften this, I wet my brush. Now you can put a little bit of dark on the bottom of the eye, but you don't want to do too much. That dark shape at the bottom of the eye, really, you don't do much. You can see I'm just adding a little bit. And I could get in a little closer here so you can see what I'm doing in the dark. Okay. So now it feels good to me that I've got this background on, and it's just a focus of light, and that doesn't mean that I can't go back and change it into something else. But it's just, to me, there's something about having that light turned on. So now I've identified my sun side and my shadow side. So now I'm ready to do the hairline. And I did forget to change my water, but look at that, it's clean enough. Now, almost always when I paint hair, and you'll notice that, it's always a good idea to reread this little section here. But the hair is almost always painted in wet into wet. And there's almost always highlights when you're doing the hair. So even doing Fritz's hair is got some really dark areas, but the highlights are very in the yellow tone. So what I usually do for hair when it needs a yellow tone is I will use raw sienna. So that hair color I wet it earlier and put raw sienna in it. So now I'm just gonna wet the hair, and this time I'm gonna start going into some of the other color tones. And if I'm doing somebody with brown hair, what I usually do is I put some pure quinacridone burnt orange, and then I'll come in with burnt orange mixed with French ultramarine blue to get the darker brown tones. But almost always I put in some kind of highlight into the hairline with some pure colors. Here's another one. You can see I've used the raw sienna, I've used some quin burnt orange, and then I do the mixed color. And I always try to keep it looking like a sun side and a shadow side.
What was the mixed again?
Quinacridone burnt orange. So I'm just going to take and put a little bit of the pure quinacridone burnt orange right into some of these areas where the darks are. Because I really like that look of the color mixed on the paper. So even though his hair doesn't have a lot of orange highlights, I still am comfortable putting that in. And I'm just doing it where I see the darkest darks. So you'll notice I'm not putting it on this side. Now I'm going to go into a mixed color. And that's the quinacridone burnt orange mixed with French ultramarine blue. And see, that's going to give you really strong darks. So the more blue you put in it, the cooler and the darker it gets. So now I'm going to come in and just start looking at some of these darkest darks. And between like a number 6 brush and the script brush, which is a lovely brush for doing hair. The script brush, yeah, don't use a little teeny like number 1. This script brush is much better. It holds a lot more paint and it gives you some of those nice little lines.
Can you back out a little bit? We can't.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just thinking of the gesture of the hair, and I just keep pulling this up into the wet, and I just let it get drier and drier, and as it gets drier and drier, we start giving it more definition. But I always start wetting to wet. Now we've got some really strong dark back here. And then some of these edges, I even want them softer. So I just simply wet my brush and soften the edges in the back area. I don't want too much detail back there. Smooth it out a little bit here. Coming down into the... But the fun part about Fritz's hair is it is sticking out all over. So I can lean up. See, I've got this mixed color here, but I can put more water in it and I just get a lighter grayer version. So over here when I get into the sun side, of course I don't want it real dark. So I'm just doing the same mixture, more water, and just coming in, soften, soften. I'm not going to paint every hair, but I'm going to Get some of those nice grays in there. And see, it's really nice having those highlights from the warm and the gold. Now all I have to do is put in the darks. As the paper dries, I can just go darker and darker and darker. Meanwhile, we're getting quite a storm.
Now he's kind of going to Christopher Walken.
A little change.
Whoever that is.
Paul Newman with Christopher Walken hair.
Oh, that's funny, you guys are funny.
Christopher Walken's kind of a curmudgeon too, so.
Ah.
No, that's it. I don't think she knows. She hates him a lot. Do you know Fritz really, or is it just,
He's a good friend.
oh, he is?
Absolutely.
All right.
He's over all the time.
And you're getting to know more about him every day.
So now it's much, much darker here. And I usually go from light to dark. You can see what's happening here. Now I'm starting to get more of the darks closer to the hairline. And I'm thinking always of the gesture of the hair. And I have some hairs that are gonna come in here, just fly around. And then there's always that fact that anything in the shadow area, which is here, is gonna be softened. So I'm just gonna take my little number 6 brush here, just what we did earlier, wet the brush, shake it out, take the extra moisture off. So there's a little moisture left, but not moisture that's gonna go into it. And these edges have to be softened. Now some of these could go out like and stay crisp. There's always a few renegade hairs that fly around, we'll leave those. But for the most part, if that hair is in the shadow, it needs to be softened.
Yeah.
Do you have a little masking on that hair?
I do, so that's what you're seeing there, is some of the masking. Now I could even add a little bit more yellow over this. I kind of like those yellow highlights over here. So I'm using a little raw sienna again, just to pull that in. And again, this edge needs to be softened. To me, it's amazing how much softening you do when you paint a portrait. It seems like you wear out a brush, literally. I was thinking of giving everybody a brush. Still don't do it. I think I'll do that. Okay, now the other thing that is exciting is to do some of the shirt. And in this case, I kind of like a style that's a little bit loose, so that the edges are a little softer at the edge, but crisper as they're next to the body. So I'm now gonna just switch to a nice bright color. And I love this color. It's my favorite color, quinacridone burnt orange. What else? Only I think what I'll do is put a little red in it too. So I'll put a little quin coral just to warm it up a bit. And it's kind of fun. Just come right in with your clothing. I very often will paint that dry, in control, and then wet edges I want lost. So now if I want to just come in here and get some of these edges, in this case hard. Let's go darker back here. Let's go a little darker through here. While it's wet, I can bleed color in, wet into wet. And there's some of these nice dark shapes coming through here. And then what I like to do is just kind of paint it out. Just let that edge bleed out. Same over here. Let's get some of this bright, the same color over in here.
Is that dry?
I'm on dry paper now.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do is just soften this. Just like over here, I don't even care if there's a few little white shapes. And then on the other side, I'm going to take Quin Burnt Orange and its complement, which happens to be cobalt blue. So I'll just take a little cobalt into that. So Quin Burnt Orange, cobalt, and that will give me the shadow side. And we'll just get going on this. So I like to keep it kind of loose if I can. If I can't, then I just tighten it up. So now we're going to go next to the eyeglass. And this is, oh, this is too bad. I ran out of color. I'm going to have to mix it again. It might not be the same. Close enough. Okay, so now what we're going to do.
It's only your seventh picture.
Yeah, it's actually my third. So now I want to paint, this edge is important to get right, because you know how it defines the subject. I don't know why I'm messing around with this brush. But just leaving a few edges here. And I still need my little round brush to get in these tight areas. So see, it was a good idea not to paint that the glass part here yet. Ah, good, it's fun having that little edge. And there are some really dark. That was something, wasn't it? Whoa. Wow, that scared me.
She didn't even jump. Did you put a big line across your paper?
No, but it scared me.
You might wanna keep that in, it'll kind of be the surprise.
Yeah, the angels are bowling, remember?
Oh, the angels are bowling.
Didn't you hear that when you were?
No,
What a strike.
no kidding, I've never heard that one. So you can see how fun it is just to put this in, keep it as free as you can, under control as much as you can. Lost edges, found edges, so not too much changes. It's all about edge control when it comes to portraiture. So some of these edges I'm going to come back now and lose, soften a bit. And I'll probably soften that edge later. And see, now that this is drier, I can come in with my rigger with that mixture of quinacridone burnt orange, French ultramarine blue. Yep, for hairline. For crevice darks, I use cobalt, but for hair, I use French ultramarine so I can go even darker. Did I say cobalt before?
Yeah.
Oh, strike that out. Yeah, good thing I got an audience to keep me honest here.
I saw your hand.
You could use cobalt, but whenever you use French ultramarine, that gives you the option to go a lot darker. So you can see how nice it is to see this darker color happening in his hairline.
What is it in the hair?
French ultramarine blue with quinacridone burnt orange. That was something, wasn't it? That
That was a scary boom.
So is the French ultramarine blue and the orange also for the dark
On the eyeline?
No, nope, I use cobalt.
That's cobalt.
I use cobalt because you don't want to get too dark. And that just is like an automatic control. So now we have painted some really hard lines on somewhat dry paper, so as usual, I usually come in and soften some of the edges in the shadow areas. Leave a few crisp, soften a few. Isn't this lovely, you guys? This is Wylan, and what I like about it
I
is
hear her laughing over there.
she decided to do that focus of light. And isn't it amazing how that does make a beautiful background? The light, the shadow, it gives an atmospheric feel to it. And the beauty, because her background was very dark, and I really imagined this with a dark background. I think you should paint it again with a dark background. But this is outstanding. The glasses, look at, those could have been just flat, but no, look at how she's pulled in some interesting, it looks like
There
some,
are people on the beach.
I was gonna say, she's got people on the beach. It's absolutely wonderful. Can you see that? See what she's got? She's got. You gotta entertain your viewer. I'll tell you, that's perfect. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
Well, how old was she the first time we did portraits? You did her.
Yeah,
How old was she, do you remember?
she was 12 or 13. No, she's older than that.
And now she's working on an advanced degree.
Yeah.
Well, I was a little concerned when I first saw her skin tone. It looked so yellow and so dark, and look how perfect it is. You're an absolutely wonderful gauge of values. There's so many subtleties happening in all of these little patterns, but I particularly like her hair. And once again, I want to zoom in close. Look at that beautiful hairline. See, one thing you don't want to do is to paint hair absolutely flat. See how she's got those highlights? There's warm and cool, there's dark mid-tone light, and there's lots of soft edges. And that's what hair is about. Whenever I see a painting and they painted the hair on dry paper, I just cringe, because it's so much better if you wet it first. So much better. Well, way to go. I'm thrilled with her picture. And she went home and did this cave painting. This is too cool, you gotta see it. Isn't this beautiful? Look at that. That is so cool. These are lines from the gauze. And right through the pattern. Isn't that amazing? And to me, that's part of the fun. That and these interesting edges that are coming in. And then, of course, the added, she did this with a pencil. Is that the woody? Or is it just a regular pencil?
Just a regular.
Just a regular
I don't
pencil.
have woody.
You don't have a woody, okay.
I was gonna buy the last one, but I didn't. I talked to Jonathan, I said, you're gonna order someone? He said, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just leave that one for someone else.
So I think it's really fun. She's chosen specific, these look like Southwestern to me.
Yeah.
And
I just took it from the reference that you gave us.
Yeah, I think it's lovely. Way to go.
Thank you.
Oh, these are all so beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't
at
this,
that kid.
oh, fabulous. Tell us who this is.
My nephew's son.
Oh,
He's cute.
he really is. She's got some really wonderful stuff going. Now, right now, the crevice darks in the nose is too dark.
I just put
You
that on.
just put it on, I
Yeah.
called for it, yeah. So you can see how softening the edges on the bottom will just set it back. And other than that, I think you're just on your way. Nice job with the skin tones and the shadows and the lost edges. Now, she's done a whole bunch of masking in the hairline, so it's gonna be fun to see what happens. Does your picture have a dark background?
It does right now, yeah.
Yeah, see, I think it would be fun to do a dark background. And then when that's dry, come in and do the hairline. So, great job. And here's another really fun one. Oh gosh. I just can't wait to see.
That's really cute, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As soon as that hair comes in the background. Now the same color that you use, if you have it hopefully, the same value that you use to do the shadows, that's the color you should paint on her lips too. And then if the lips are red, you put the red over that shade tone. You don't ever put the lips like the red right on this color, it's too bright. But if you put the shadow down first, the shadow color, and then put the red over it, it's perfect. Well, this is delightful, just, oh. And this is so fun. This is Katie's granddaughter.
I love the hair.
That is fabulous. She's kind of biting her lip.
Yeah.
And boy, what a difference. She just softened this edge up here, which it was all this hard. And see, it's all about edges. And I'm sure that's one of the big things you're going to learn today is edge control. Lost edges and found edges, and warm and cool. To me, that's what it's all about. So you can see the hard edge coming up here, and then it goes into the shadow and it's all lost. Great job. Just a great job.
And it looks exactly like her.
Isn't it? It's so fun. And here is her daughter. And this is outstanding.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. It's absolutely.
She looks just like you.
She does.
She does.
Yeah.
She
She
does
is
look like
a
you
young
for sure.
version of
Isn't that
me.
great?
Yeah, everything.
Again, a really good job with her lost edges, her found edges, and the teeth, which are always a challenge. And her crevice darks are well done. When to lose the edge, when to leave it hard. I can't wait to see the color come into the background. It's just gonna be
You
outstanding.
really showed us how to pull out the whites. You did a nice, really, seriously. For the highlights.
Wow, this is way too fun. And this is Josie, who just didn't think she could do this. Look at
Hand
this.
on the hair.
You just need some more runaway hairs and
Yeah.
soften that. First of all, you soften that edge, then you do the runaway hairs.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
I gotta do more on the top of her hair too.
And then the eyes need some softening.
Okay.
But I really like the craziness of the background and the stripes and the little hearts and more stripes and water. I mean, I think the background and what the subject is wearing is half the fun. It's really fun.
Joe's?
Teagues.
And you didn't wanna do a portrait. She whined all through breakfast.
I know. I get whiners every year and I just ignore them.
Yeah, girl.
And this is so cool. Good job. This is Dee. Oh my gosh, that is so
That's
good.
wonderful.
Really wonderful. You really helped that chin. And the nose still needs a little more shadow to pull out the nose. A little more shadow under the nose. Now she's got the challenge of the gray hair, so obviously she's gonna have to put maybe a little darker background. But wow, good job. And you know what's really fun when you do a self-portrait is we had all kinds of people who put these together into little cards, and they put their picture that they had painted of themselves, and then their information as an art contact. And I just found this when I was cleaning house. This is a gal that was here for one of our past portraits, and this is a little card she had made with her contact information in the back. So it's just a little card. I thought that was clever too. So, and this is awesome. Look at that. Now tell us about this, Lindy.
Well, in 2004, I was on a mission trip to Ukraine. And the people that I stayed with, this was the husband's mother who lived across the street with his brother or sister. I think it was his sister. Yeah. And she didn't have any teeth, so it was trying to kind of sink in her mouth.
Yeah, that would be tough.
Yeah.
Again, look at the beautiful skin tone she's gotten.
You're
And-
hiding the wrinkles.
This is kind of fun, the sprinkle that she did wet and dry, so she's got crisp and hard. It just sort of adds to the gala feeling. Wow. There's almost like you're reading emotion into her face, her eyes and stuff. I think you've captured a lot in this. Really nice. And now she's working on her sun and shadow. She had all the red, one red. And I said, no, go darker on the shadow side. Same with their greens. See how nice it is just to pull that darker on that side and then losing the edge into the shadow, keeping it crisp on the sun side. It's a really easy concept. Crisp on the sun side, lost on the shadow side. And this, look at this great start. Tell us about this little rascal.
That is my grandson Lucas, and he is 4 years old, and he's Down syndrome, so he's pure love.
Oh, you captured it. Oh. I think the French ultramarine was the perfect color blue for that jacket. It's always a challenge. You've done a nice job. The hair, you've done a little softening. And again, the simplicity of that focus of light in the background. If you want to, you can always come back and make changes. Meanwhile, the background's painted and it looks great. Oh, and this is a little charmer too. Look at this. Oh my gosh.
Cute.
Tell us about this little gal.
That's Emmeline, who runs about 300 miles a day. And she just turned 3. It's my great-granddaughter.
I actually like the focus of light in the background because it's repeating the colors in the dress. And it had a dark background, which would have been stunning with that light hair, but the way she's captured the hair, I wouldn't do a thing. I like it. Are you happy with it? Oh my
And I
God.
aged her. She doesn't look 3.
Doesn't look 3. Yeah, she does look older than 3, but I don't know how.
I'll wait till she's 7 and get
Yeah,
it.
and then show it. I don't know why that happens. Old people look younger, young people look older. What do we do? You may- Nice job with that hair. I looked at that hair and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be fun to see how she handles that. Because it looks like she doesn't have much hair. And it's kind of
And it
tied
looks
up.
like that most of the time.
Oh, and this little charmer. Oh, look. Oh my gosh.
All those cheeks.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
Who's this at?
Janice, tell us about, is this one of the little ones you take care
I can
of?
tell that hair needs help.
It just needs to be darker.
It's
You need to leave no
light and dark.
background. Leave it like that.
And then if you wet it, did you paint it wet, but it
Yeah.
dried that fast?
Yep.
But I would just re-wet it and go darker, because it is darker. And is this one of the little ones you take care of?
Actually, this is the only granddaughter I have. I have 4 grandsons. And she's a Spitfire. She's 2. Gabby, she's got an attitude, and she's a bag lady. She loves little bags. She'll eyeball your purse like, I want that. And go and collect things and walk around the house with it and stuff. In fact, before Barb picked me up, the storm was coming, and I was in the house trying to, because they live at our house, and she said, "You're going painting, Gamma?" I said, "Yes, I'm going to paint a picture of you. Can I paint a picture of you?" And she goes, "Yes." And so I really didn't know if I was going to paint her or somebody else, but
It's great.
Good choice.
Well, you'll have to make a copy of it and put it in a bag and give it to her.
Karlyn, you know what's so nice about that one? I think what makes her look so young is that you really did a lot of soft edges.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of real hard,
Right.
dark shadows. It's real soft.
She worked hard.
God, that's beautiful.
Same with the eyes, the way she's handled those eyes, it's all about putting the color down, and then you had to have worked those eyes a lot to soften them.
yeah.
It's just.
And it's every stroke, it's worth every stroke, going back and forth, and sometimes it takes a lot of time. Good job on the eyebrows too, and those subtle
Yeah.
tonal washes are beautiful.
Yeah, it's just so soft.
And this is totally different than all the rest of us. This is gonna
That's a
be,
grand gesture.
I love my hair.
oh, that is, honest to God, it still looks like
Yeah,
a
looks like
cake.
cake, yeah.
Looks like it, yes.
It does,
I can't get over that thing.
yeah. I know, I keep telling him how good it is, and he keeps telling me I have to go to confession. As soon as that hat goes on, right, I was just wondering, why has he got that in the bottom of the picture? And I realized he got this cute little hat on. See, that hat's gonna just pull it together. And I love this green up here. I'm hoping there's a green somewhere else. That'll be a fun color to reproduce.
Yeah, the hat is
Oh,
great, so.
great. Perfect.
It's hysterical.
Oh my gosh.
But honestly, that's just wonderful.
That is really good. Everybody's painting is so good. Look at this.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that wonderful?
Oh, look at that
And
great
tell us about
hair.
this little gal.
Her name's Lila, and I've been babysitting her since she was born.
No
So
kidding.
we're real close.
Yeah. Well, I love it. You do need to soften those
Yeah.
lines. You probably just put them in
I
when I
just did.
called you
Yeah.
up here. And then soften a few edges
Yeah.
on the hairline. It looks like you did it all dry paper.
No?
I know you didn't, but it looks that way. So you need to just soften a few more edges.
Okay.
And I can't wait to see the darks in the mouth. It's just gonna pop. Wow.
Look at her
Boy, you
hand.
give it capture the hands and stuff.
Yeah.
So
And the arms,
Yes.
oh my gosh.
It's really nice.
Cheers, dry.
And this is gonna be sweet.
Oh, how cool is that?
That is good. Who is this young lady?
That's my granddaughter.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Picture.
She's kind of a,
Really, it's a beautiful job on those shadows. We need to get the darks on top of the eyes. And now that you're really cooking, you're getting into the rest of the subject. Oh, man.
Does she have your eyes, Kate? What? Is there a family resemblance? Does she have your eyes? I've kind of seen your face. Yeah.
And this is really sweet.
Oh, that's cute.
Whose is this? Barb?
This is Barb. She was
Oh,
avoiding,
that is so good.
she was avoiding teeth and eyes. But you know what? She still has captured just something so delightful. Just you get drawn in again by the emotion. I love the way she's handled the shadow and the light. And she was having trouble with her underpainting too and getting a certain amount of blotchiness, and I kept saying, don't worry about it. When you come in with that second wash of shadow, it's gonna really come together, and it's beautiful.
Karlyn, it reminds me of a master's portrait, like a Rembrandt or something.
Wow.
I mean, really, look at it. I think that's incredible.
I think we're gonna have to get her a special hat. Or a brush. Oh, this is way too fun. You guys, I've just loved today. Look at this.
Oh,
who's that from?
Oh, that came,
Tell us who that is.
That came from last year.
that's last year's.
who's this? Who's it?
It's mine. Linda's.
Beautiful. Oh,
Yes.
Look at her
Tell us who
back.
this is.
That's my granddaughter Maggie. She's 19, and we just went traveling to Venice and the Greek islands. So this was a picture from when we were traveling.
Great.
That's good.
She was trying to decide if she should put the glasses on top of her head, and I think it adds kind of an interesting
Yeah.
little touch.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you forgot
Yes,
to
I
paint in
noticed
there.
that. Yeah,
And
I'll
you've
have
got a
to-
few edges to lose.
Yeah.
And look at how beautifully she painted the fabric. She wet it and did it all wet into wet. Did you use indigo?
I think I used the French ultramarine and the burnt
Okay,
orange.
because
Yeah, could I-
indigo does not move in water, and neither does French ultramarine, and neither does quinacridone burnt orange, which I think you mixed in it.
Yeah.
So that's how she could do this, because the color doesn't really move much. So in that wet surface, she was able to add the pattern, and it just sort of fuzzed out and made it look like it was actually knit. Isn't that cool?
Tell us about the background, it's lovely.
Yeah, we like the background.
It's actually Santorini in the background.
I recognize it.
Santorini came right out of the tube. Yeah.
You know, actually, it's all about value and repetition of color. See those warm colors repeated, the blues repeated, and just the value is perfect to pop her out. Nice job. Oh my gosh, every one of these. I mean, this is an outstanding group. Look at that. Isn't that fabulous? And
Oh, gosh.
It's my granddaughter Cecilia.
oh. And now she was thinking of eliminating the high chair and all the bib and all that, and I said, no, go for it. I think that's gonna be part of the charm of the picture. It's the little polka dots on the background and the little stripe on her bib. Really fabulous job, really fabulous.
Really captured the baby look.
Yeah, and you know, you look at the picture and you go, oh, this is so cute, I'm gonna paint it, and then afterwards you go, why did I pick that picture? And now I gotta paint that hand, and those fingernails, and you know, but look at the great job she did on them. It's really
incredible
believable.
how that stands out, wow.
Yeah, it's really nice. And this is our newest gal.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
She doesn't get to play a rookie card anymore.
No more. So, and what is it, your Jan?
It's,
No, what, your,
my name's Sharon, and
Sharon.
it's my daughter Dana,
oh.
my oldest daughter. And I
Great.
think her eyes are, one eye's bigger than the
Yes,
other.
I noticed it right away.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be easy to fix because these are all non-staining colors, so
okay.
we'll be able to fix that. But look at what she's chosen. I mean, this is not an easy picture. And I think she's done a great job with first of all, the skin tones and the washes. Now she did her underpainting without any yellow in it. So she is a little red. I would recommend doing a little yellow mixture next time into the red,
All right.
but it works, it looks great.
Karlyn, if you do get something that's too red, can you wash over it with the yellow?
Sure,
What will
you could
happen?
re-wet that whole thing and
Do
do
a
another
glaze.
mother
Like a
wash.
glaze, will it work?
It'll work. That's why I like this layered technique. You can just keep going over it until you get it right. And this is another gal who really wasn't excited about doing portraits. Oh, I knew I could feel the resistance. Oh my gosh, Mary Beth. And does she pick an easy subject? No. This is a 97-year-old aunt.
That's beautiful.
It's really terrific.
Do
It
I
really
have
is.
that dark line, her lip line too dark?
No, no. It could be softened a little, but it's not too dark.
Because she
Just
does have
soften.
teeth and doesn't look like she has teeth up there.
I know, but if you soften that a bit,
Okay.
that's all you need to do. I love the stripe, and she's got in the hat and the whole thing. This is just outstanding. And today we do have choices to be made about how are we gonna finish these. So look at this. This is absolutely incredible. This is Mary Beth's. And so now she has given us kind of a lovely vignette style here. I like her grays. Look at the way she's gone between a warm and a cool gray. It's lovely,
What'd you
absolutely
mix,
lovely.
Mary Beth, for that gray? What is it? A combination of what?
Well, there's a little bit of Payne's gray in there, and I put a wash of the flesh tones into the gray.
Yeah, we did.
So is that?
Yeah, you're picking.
Beautiful. That's why it works so well together. All these grays are absolutely magnificent. Her hair is looking great. And see, her hair is going to be gray. Imagine that at 97. And so she's actually done some masking, just taking a palette knife and putting in a few lines, some going into the face here that have not been removed yet. And she was asking, well, how should I do that hair? And my suggestion was just to take these same colors and put a little bit of a warmer gray next to the skin tone and a little bit of a cooler gray as you get out to the edge. And I would wet it first and I would just put some strokes. So you're still saving some of the white of the paper, but you're creating enough of a value change that when she removes that masking, she's gonna have a little contrast. So and then what she does in the background, that's what made me think about Bev and these other artists. You know, Ted would put a neutral color.
I think that was.
Okay, and Bev would do something more dynamic with some drippy edges, and the other gal would do more of a solid color to the edges. So the choices are there. That's why it's fun to paint the same subject more than once and treat it differently each time. Wow. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little repetition, and then I'm going to probably paint a dark background behind the old boy. And one of the things I have to do yet is I'm not getting enough contrast in the face. See, I don't necessarily have time in a class situation, but remember, this is Fritz. You always have to save the color, either on your palette or in a little bottle or jar, write their name on it, because I guarantee you're always going to want to do one more layer. And I always kid around when I say, when I'm talking to the Lord, I always say, don't take me yet. I've got so many more layers to put on so many paintings. Ah, boy, I tell ya. So the part I feel is not really speaking to me. The nose needs a higher contrast. So just to come in here one more time with the same color. See, this
But
is
you're getting wet.
I know when I'm doing the shadows, I do it always on dry paper. I'm in control. I do the mother wash wet, but I do this dry. I have saved this with some masking so I can just paint right through it. And what I'm looking for now are these final darks that need to be brushed in here. Now this, you know, this is the same color, so it's going to dry kind of similar. But I'm going to feel a lot better. I just want to pop out on this side these darker colors. And I want to show the edge of this philtrum. See, it looks like it's crooked, but when it gets darker there, you realize, oh yeah, that's starting to work. And this needs to come down. This dark needs to come all the way up to the lip line and through the lip line. And I'm gonna let that set up just a bit. And I'm gonna put I've got enough here to do another little dark on this edge and pull this dark out to here. And up through here. Now, the most important thing is getting these shadows into your hairline, so you're not experiencing what looks like a wig got stuck on your head. You definitely want it to be integrated. So now we're going to, with the brush, wet my brush, shake it out, take that extra moisture off, so that there's still water in this brush. But I am now controlling the edges. So I want some of these edges left quite hard, and others I just want softened. Now if I just want them softened, what I do is I wait for the paint to set up a little bit. Because if you do it when it's soaking wet, it just really runs out. And I do it soaking wet when I want to add color to it. Pull out color in a cheek, I'm going to do that next. But right now, I just want to soften some of these edges with the slight water in here. And I always like to blend this skin tone into, anytime you have a shadow area, you blend that into your hairline, or you blend it into your clothing area. I don't really have any there. Okay, I've got enough to do one more little edge here. I need to define the edge of the lip, and I need to come in down here. And you'll notice I have bounced light coming back onto this right here. Normally this would be the darkest, but can you see that bounced light? That's something else you want to look for when you're painting these, is how much of this is bounced light. Okay, so hopefully that's very subtle, but that's gonna work. I didn't really mention this too much, but when I do eyebrows, I wet the area first. And so I wet it, and then I just let the paper kind of sit there for a little bit to soak in, because I don't want it soaking wet. I just basically want it damp. And then in his case, his eyebrows are a little bit darker than his hair. So I'm going to take the same mixture here of quinacridone burnt orange with a little cobalt. And that usually gives me as dark a dark as I need for these particular eyebrows and for his crevice darks. And I go darker as I need it. So you can see here's a little patch that's darker if I need it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do some of these eyebrows. He doesn't have many eyebrows showing for some reason.
What's the size of your brush? Are you using the
A script brush.
script brush?
A script brush. And he really doesn't have much for eyebrows, but he's going to get a few. So into the wet, I'm going to do these eyebrows. And then I'm going to lift out and soften some of them, because eyebrows just need to be suggested in his case. We're not going to put little hard eyebrows on there. But he needs to have some. They went too far. Because this is a lifting color, I can just lift it out. See, and I still need to work on his eyeglasses too. Now I'll just soften that edge. And as this dries, I can come in and add more and get into the more crisp ones. So I like to start with it wet and actually get the first strokes on that damp paper. And that gives me a chance to define it, the shape of it, where they are. They kind of arch up here. Now as it starts to dry, I can come back in and give a little more definition. It's especially hard to do little kids. They hardly have any eyebrows. And like I lost mine. I used to have eyebrows, bushy eyebrows. They didn't come back. Okay, now if you go too far, you can lift it. That's what's so cool about this. So that's pretty subtle, but I'm comfortable with that. I don't really want to go too much darker than that. And so now I'm ready to think about doing more with the background. And I'm actually shaking in my boots a little bit here because I don't mind the background the way it is, but as you guys know, I've painted this rascal before, so it's time I do something different. And you can see the hairline, the wet into wet. I actually like the way it looks. I think it's kind of cool, just suggesting all this. And then I probably at the very end will do a few more actual hairs. But I just don't like hairlines that are where you see every hair. I like them kind of suggested.
Karlyn, for the yellowy blonde, what color yellow was that? Was that a
This was raw sienna. It's a very transparent, lovely color.
raw sienna?
Raw sienna. Those are the highlights. And then I did put a little pure quinacridone burnt orange, so you're seeing some of those warm colors in there, like a highlight. And then all of the dark colors you see are quinacridone burnt orange with French ultramarine blue. So let's have some fun. I am going to do it with a similar color to his shirt, but I'm gonna go darker. See, the good news is, if it doesn't work, I can edit it out. Well, for a wrap up, all I need to do now is a few more darks on the shirt, and we're done. Okay, if you don't need that, let's try this. Oh, man. Okay, so I'm just going to go into my palette, and as you know, I like my paint dry, so every day I've got to give it a little moisturizing. This is just water. And I'm going to go into my quinacridone burnt orange. That was the color I used in the shirt. And I'm going to go into my French ultramarine blue. And I'm just basically going to work off of a puddle system here, where it's going to go between warm and cool and dark and pure color. So I'm going to start, I think, over here.
And you're doing that on a wet into dry, right?
Wet into dry. Yep. And I really think I should have, I think I'm going to wet the hairline so that those, trouble with doing this, then the color rolls in. But let's just see what happens. And there are some interesting little renegade hairs there. I'm gonna go a little cooler now. And I'm gonna go a little warmer. I'll probably go off the edge. So I'm just sticking with these two colors. And I'm going to come in over here. Now I do have to look at my picture because there's some really fun hair sticking out here. This guy's, he's so funny. His hair is great. He's got the thick, beautiful hair. See, and I like some of the edges lost like this and some hard, some found. And I'm going to go back into more cool over here. And I don't mind if some of these colors kind of blend together. Hey, this is actually looking pretty good. Maybe we'll keep it. But now what am I going to do here? I think I'm going to just lose these edges. Now most of the artists that I have been admiring actually have their work elevated. So see these colors, they're just allowed to run. They either work with the paint so thick that it just drips, as in the case of Ted, or they work wet and just let it drip. So I do like this warm-cool combination. I think it's working pretty well. Let me get a little darker here. I'm using a 1-inch flat. And I'm just going to how far do I want to go? How close do I want to get? Cooler off. I think I might leave it there. I think this is kind of fun, some of these edges lost.
Can you pull it down a little bit, Karlyn?
Oh, sure, sorry. I'm just going to leave it like this. So I like some of these edges lost. My gosh, I haven't even looked at this. Look at that. Where is he? Maybe I need to put some of those shapes that are actually in there. It's kind of fun. Look at that. There's something up here. It's darker over here. Okay, now another thing, I want to go, these are the same two colors I used here. So I definitely want to go darker here. I don't want to lose that lovely little white line, so I'm trying to be careful there. And see, there's just some really nice strong shapes here. This is all on dry paper. And then if I want to, I can just simply come in with my brush wet, I shake out the extra moisture, and see, when I get close to an edge, I still like the idea of wetting the edge, leaving some edges hard and other edges lost. So we can add just a few more hard shapes here. We're on the sun side now. Lose that into the shirt. Lose that. And I think we're getting there. That was fun. Now I still need to go darker up here. So I switch to a smaller brush. And eventually I'm probably going to come in here and lose that edge a bit. So, what do I want to do here? I actually like the way this is going, kind of lost and found, some edges lost. So what you can do, oh, that's interesting. Oops. So I like the idea of coming in with a few lost and found edges. And while this is still wet, the other thing I like to do, because you can see there are these renegades. Oh boy, some days Fritz has a lot of renegades. So if I'm lucky, I'll be able to lift out a few of these. Usually the 1/2 inch flat is your best. The shorter the bristles, the better. And it's a thirsty brush, so it's dry. It's actually thirsty. See? And you can lift out a few of these little wild hairs. I don't want to get too many. It's going to look scary.
Maybe Josie should give him a haircut.
Yeah.
With an X-Acto knife.
Go with the X-Acto knife.
You guys. Too bad you don't have any fun.
Yeah.
It's a one-stop
Okay,
shop.
so I think that's going to be it. Now I do want to show, a lot of you have darling little grandchildren, and they need to have rosy cheeks in most cases. So I'm just going to pretend that Fritz has been out in the sun here and needs some rosy cheeks. And what you do is you take, I generally like a very transparent color. Although when I studied with Ted Natal, he used cadmium red light, which also works. But my preference is a transparent. So I'm going to use just my Scarlet Lake, and I'm just going to dissolve it. I never go from the Scarlet Lake right to the party. So I get it activated really well here. Especially if you have fresh paint, you got to be really careful. Because if you go in there and you've got a little dab of fresh paint and you get a skid mark, you'll never get it out. So it's got to be totally dissolved. And then you just design, okay, like here's his cheek line. This would be an obvious place to add some red. And now what we're going to do is shake my brush out touch it, so there's still moisture in the brush. And what I'm gonna do is start outside this edge. And why don't I just move in closer? So we're gonna be outside the edge here and touching here and then taking that color and literally pulling it. See, pulling it right up into the cheek line. And that's going to give him a little rosy glow in his cheeks. But it could also have been in on his lip line. So I'll do this one too. So this one is over basically the underwash. This one is going to be over the shadow. Same color, same thing. Put it down.
The Scarlet Lake.
No, I'm using quinacridone coral. And then you start outside and you pull it out. And see, that just gives them that little bit of, soften it. So that just, and then in his case, I actually see a very warm glow here. It's a bounced light, and it's probably from this shirt. So see, I can now take and put that same color along this outside edge. Wet it, shake it, let the extra moisture come out, soften that, and pull that out into the lost edge. And see, that's going to dry 20% lighter, but that's going to give him a little glow. And I would probably put this on his lips too. It's not a real bright color, but it'll give just a little bit of a lip color to the lips. And let's put a little bit on his nose too. Maybe he's had a little glass of Chardonnay. So just soften that in there. Now, very often, you'll have a problem like this. See up in his forehead, there's a dot, a little drip of color that we don't want, right there. So what the natural reaction is just to grab a tissue and start rubbing it. Bad. This is your answer. Q-tips. Just grab a handful, dampen the Q-tip, and then what you want to do now, we don't want to lose entirely our base coat of skin tone, but what we want to do is just gently lift that. So what I do is in kind of a circular motion and turning my Q-tip as I go, I can just gently lift that out, and then when my Q-tip is dirty, I turn it over and I do the same thing again. I gently go around the area, turning the Q-tip so it's always on a clean base, and look at that. Voila, gone. So that's how I generally get rid of these little dots and blotches that just, I don't know where they come from, but there they are.
Karlyn, when you started the cheeks first, you said that it was with Scarlet Lake. And then later you said it was quinacridone.
Oh, see, I'm having a problem with what I say and what I'm using. Sorry about that. Thank you for clarifying. I did use quinacridone coral. And Scarlet Lake would be for really rosy cheeks. So you would check, what is it you're trying to say? Is this person have just the most incredible rosy cheeks? Maybe a clown face? So other than getting much darker with the glasses and getting in this cast shadow a little darker, he's coming pretty close to an end. This has been a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I did that again. First of all, you want to do the same little hanging chad. Remember, if they're bad, look you can push it right back in. And you can pull it back out again. And so now over here, I'm going to put it right in the same position. So I take my sharp razor, dig it in. It's a little scary, and I pull it towards me. And it just, it's like night and day. Do you wanna flip the lights off? Peggy, do you wanna flip the lights for us? And you can see, it's really amazing. Now, with, the other thing is you can dig right next to it and make it just a hair, I want it bigger. So see, I'm literally encouraging that to be bigger. And then I love the double. I just love the double light. So now I'm gonna put it right next to it and just do a smaller one. Right next to it and do a smaller one. Isn't that, it's totally amazing.
You look real.
Well, I'm gonna start out by saying I cannot believe the quality of these paintings. And it's because you're all so darn talented. I can't really take too much credit for this. A very exciting 2 days. So these are their finished pictures, and I just think this is totally awesome.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Very, very, the subtleties, you know, just the eyeglasses, the way she's captured, she actually masked some of those areas. And then when she took the masking off, I didn't get to see it at that point, but I'm sure there were some very glaring, hard edges that needed to be softened so that the white would kind of just smooth into the dark, back into the light, back into the dark, back into the light, and so on. And this piece, since you've seen it in the past, she's done the hairline, which looks great. Really great. I see maybe one area here that could be softened just a little.
In the hairline?
Right, yeah, right here, between the hat and the hairline, because it's very hard. And it was amazing. She kept saying, is there anything else I need to do? Is there anything else? And I said, you know what? You need to soften the area between the head going into the neck. And it was an unbelievable change to see, huge, wasn't it? This lost edge. And this is true now, when you have the edge in the sunlight, on the sun side, that edge is almost always crisp. But all the edges going into the shadow are almost always very lost. So the one thing that's been really great about this whole thing is learning about found edges and lost edges. And look at the transposition in this hat. The dark here going into light, here the light going into dark. And together there's a beautiful path leading us into the face. And I'm very pleased again. I think another thing that you guys have really controlled is the temperature. Color temperature. And the fact that we have warm and cool in the same clothing. I like that. It can be real boring if you don't do it. So lost and found edges and warm and cool shadows. Great job.
Here, Beth, can I have a copy of your cousin's still?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is lovely. This is Josie's. Really? Josie did not want to do a portrait.
Nope.
She's one of these cousins. She loves abstract and she's good at it. But this was a trial for her, and I cannot believe the quality. Good job. I think we should give her a hand. She pulled it off. And again, beautiful lost edges, beautiful found edges, shadows, textures. This was a challenge because of the variety of textures, and she really pulled it together. And this is a delightful. Ooh. Oh, cute. Can you believe this?
Who is it?
Tell us who this is.
My nephew's son, my second great nephew, I guess he would be.
Okay, and what's his name?
Marcus.
Marcus? Oh, Marcus. You know, this is really awesome that she got by with this really strong background. Isn't that amazing?
Really nice.
That is really amazing. That beautiful diagonal coming in, which is, you know, kind of complementing the diagonal here of the arm. It's giving us a nice cruciform background. And where the yellow crosses into the blue, look at how she's repeated the orange color. And the blue, blue, blue are repeated. So what she did is basically take the Rembrandt triad, which we all know is quincold, quinacridone burnt orange, and indigo. And she chose that because those colors were in her subject. And it was a perfect choice. Had she used the bright yellows and pinks and blues, I think, well, it would have worked, and it would have looked like a sky. But this really relates to the picture. It's a beautiful ending. And it's also giving you this high contrast to the hair. I'm just thrilled with it. Nice job.
And was that all done just by wetting the edges after you had your face done?
With help from Waylon for going like this, so I blended it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then look at, she's added a little salt. It takes a lot of blending when you do these washes. It has to be, first of all, really wet, and you wet around everything. Then when you're done, sometimes you have edges that you lose, and sometimes you have edges that you keep crisp. You look at them and just say, okay, I want to keep this, I want to change this. And were you interested in having the eyes clicked out?
Yeah.
Or you want to do it
we show
yourself?
that, sure.
Okay, this really does make a big difference. He's kind of looking straight on. So again, I just position where I'm going to do it. Push the razor in and pull it towards me. And I just keep making it bigger if I need it bigger. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. I like that.
And then even from way in the back, and then try really hard to get the same position in the other eye.
Come in a little bit, Karlyn, just to see it. Please.
Actually,
It adds so much light.
Oh.
but you know what? I did go a little lower than I should have. So what I'm going to do is put 2 clicks. This one above. And this one below. And the good news is, these are hanging chads, as I mentioned earlier. That means you can push them back in again if you don't like it. So if you want one, we can push that one back. Isn't that funny? So there's one. Now I like one, now that they're lined up. I'll tell ya.
Yeah.
Really great job, Jill. Amazing. And here's Katie. Oh. You guys are great. It's the expression, it's that hair going over her face and that lip that she's biting. That is so sweet. Amazing. I like the green tones in your dark background. It's not just an absolutely flat black. It's got some very subtle changes, and it's got a little bit of the green in it. I like that very much. And this looks nicer now with the darker color hair. Amazing. And she actually saved those holes by not painting them. That's pretty cool. And look at this little guy. This is great. And Dee, good, congratulations, this is beautiful. Dee actually made this lovely dress. This is her granddaughter.
Oh, Linda.
Or Linda, I'm sorry, Linda. She made this dress. So that, oh, there it is, Linda. Signed already? In a pen. That's okay. That is absolutely delightful. Oh my gosh. And see, she just used that simple focus of light, which just gives it a nice atmospheric feel. And the colors bounce with the same colors are here in her dress, so it really works. This is very exciting. We have a self-portrait.
Awesome.
Okay.
That is awesome.
Good job.
Oh, Dee.
That's D.
This is the D. I love it. And it was a real challenge with the white hair. She could have given I think it would be fun to paint this again. Give yourself a little break. And do one with a dark background.
I hadn't thought about that.
Or put it in the app.
Oh, there you go.
And instantly print it out. and just see what it would be like to, oh, there you go.
Karlyn, if you put it in a dark background, or if that was your plan on a next painting, would you lighten up the clothing? So that,
Not necessarily.
no, you could still use that color?
I hope you could leave it that way, because if you'll recall, that's what I did with Fritz.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
See, he had the dark clothing,
Right.
and so I just kind of reversed things a little bit and left that passage of light through there.
So I could still do that.
You still could do that, absolutely. I think it would be, but I really like it the way it is.
What color did she use to get the shadow on the sweater? It looks very authentic.
I just glazed over with the same color.
French
The sweater
ultramarine
color.
blue.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Amazing. This is Katie's daughter. Oh my gosh, that's good. And she wanted me to do a little click in the eyes too,
Yeah.
which will be fun to do.
And she does, she makes you smile. She's,
But I mean, the teeth, everything, very challenging. And there's already a click here. So we're gonna go there. Isn't that something? That little click, so sweet.
I love the way you pulled the background color into the fold of her shirt.
yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Thank you, that was purposeful, trying to get that.
Yeah.
You know what else she's done? She's given a bounce light of this color shirt under here. Can you see that? Very subtle. And the colors are already bouncing into her face. It was amazing. I painted my little grandson and he had a yellow shirt on, and when I was done, I had to put a little yellow under his chin, under his nose. Because it was a bounce light. It was so obviously there. So it's always something you have to consider. But into the hat and into the background, that was ingenious. Yay, look at this.
Oh, that's cute.
This is wonderful. Tell us who this is.
That's my granddaughter.
That's a Minnesota supporter.
Yep, she is. This was a sports day at preschool.
Ah.
So my daughter-in-law sent me that picture. But today, you know, when the spill went through, there was a spot right on her chin, and when you rub that out, it reflects off of, there's just a little bit there that reflects, you can't see here so much, off the jacket. It brought that color. I love it. It just, you see
Yeah.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Can you zoom in on her braids so we can see how she treated the braids?
Now the braids still have the masking on, so you're gonna see,
The loose hair.
see the greens? That's the color of the masking. So she hasn't had time to take that off, but that's gonna pop out to be whites. Which some of them, she's gonna have to soften some of the edges as they go into the hairline. And then as they come out, she might wanna put a little tonal wash on some of them. But what I really like about her presentation here is her vignette style. The way she's lost the edges here. That would have been a lot of dark color shooting off the bottom. And by having this softness and the fuzz, the whole thing, you just go right into the eyes.
But now I need help with the eyes, the eyes are. What happened is I didn't trace dark enough, so when I put my first coat down, I lost the eyes.
You had a very difficult photograph to work with too. Wow, look at this.
Oh.
This is so nice.
He's darling.
He is darling. And you might consider, framing this too, just more, cut off a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a lot of headroom. But how sweet. You did a great job with the hair and
You can almost see the thought process going on there, whatever.
Was he concentrating the camera maybe?
He was staring at the camera. She
Yeah.
had professional pictures
It's
done.
kind of
You could see the people in
Yeah.
his eyes.
You could see the camera person in the eyes of the photograph.
Oh, yeah.
I really like
You didn't paint those in?
I didn't paint those in.
You captured them.
He's beautiful.
Thank you.
Without the.
And this is so sweet. Oh.
Oh,
Wonderful.
See it? Doesn't that sound good? All out of praise. I love it. She's been stewing over this picture and she's not sure, should I go dark or should I go lighter? What am I gonna do about that spoon? I got dark spots over here. I don't like the bowl, Look at, it's absolutely gorgeous. The hair really pulled it together. Nice job. And she's got the masking off. And so you can see she's actually toned now some of the masking where, when you take off masking, it's scary. I mean, you've got hard white lines and you have to deal with them. You either have to soften them, tone them, or if they work, you leave them. But this is very, very nice. I know at one point she wanted to take away the high chair and all the busy clothing, but I think that's part of the charm of the picture.
Absolutely.
Kids don't have to match their high chair.
Art doesn't
And this, oh my gosh. This is absolutely charming.
Those lips are just incredible.
Yeah.
So bright.
Love the perfect.
I love the colors.
The background's great.
Yeah, I love it.
And look at the way she's given us the darkest darks, the most in focus, right through here, and then as you radiate out, less and less. And look at here, the toys. We're not even sure what those images are, but the most important thing is here. So a beautiful vignette style of working.
That's lovely.
It's really a
I love the composition.
very successful
Yes,
piece.
how she captured the child over in that corner of the picture. I just love that.
I love that little kid, that little toy upside down.
I like her lips. The shadow of the leg. How do you?
Okay, and could this be sap green?
It was, I was mixing all sorts of colors and I looked at sap green and I went,
There it is.
why not?
We might have to add that color to our palette, girls. Look at the, oh my gosh.
That looks like a photograph.
This is so good. She looked at this for most of the day. Okay, and then she said, well, maybe a plain background. Nope, maybe dark. And at the end decided no background. And I think it's beautiful. Beautiful. I wish I had an oval shaped mat. You might even consider that. Just look at it. It would be. And not a real heavy oval, just a soft oval, maybe with a little soft toning in it, picking up a little bit of the blue. You did put a little blue on the background, didn't you? No, this is the color of the paper. Amazing. Well, she chose the blue shirt because it's the color of the eyes. Wasn't that a good choice?
Yeah.
It really helps pull the eyes out. I'm thrilled. Congratulations. Oh my gosh. And she did, what I love are these little wispy hairs.
Yeah.
I just hate it when the hair looks like a wig or something just stuck on. But look at all this softness, these beautiful blended edges.
Come in a little closer.
Okay.
To be able to see that a little better, please. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So cute.
Nice job.
Thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I'm talking about? You see something, you can just
Yeah.
feel that.
Nice. Very nice. Here's another lovely
Look at her.
Lois. And this, as I mentioned earlier, was tough. This was a tough portrait because there's, I don't know, the hair, there's just a minimal amount of hair was all tied up. It's a lot easier when little kids have dark hair. This light hair is a problem because then what do you do for a background? And the actual photo was against a very dark background. So she did make the choice to leave that nice atmospheric light background, which I think works well because it's the same colors as the dress. Great job with the skin tones. Wow. Congratulations. And this is lovely. Now she had a red background and the skin tone was very red. And so she re-wet her background. She already had a red background. And she had a red shirt, the red skin tone, and a red background and said, I want more color. So she re-wet this, and isn't it lovely? This time she put in some quin gold and some more cobalt,
Is that Sharon?
and it just,
Sharon, is that yours?
yeah, that's Sharon's.
Yes, Sharon's.
So it really, I think, has come together, just a little hint of that blue coming across. Very nice job, very nice job. Wow. And this is fun. She did two of the same gal.
Oh, wow.
And which one is this? The second one.
That's the second one.
This is the second one.
Can we see both?
We're gonna see them both.
Okay.
And what I'm gonna do is just lift these away. How fun is this?
Oh my gosh.
These are identical twins. And it's really kind of interesting to see the progression. This was her first one. I think they're both really well done. And the modeled background with a busy shirt, but it works.
Yeah.
It really works. And remember we talked about how she used French ultramarine blue and quinacridone burnt orange in very equal amounts so that they became this grayed down. And so she wet the area and then painted into that wet. Wet into wet. And that gave her that almost like a knit shirt look. Now this one you have more shadows on. You have more of a cool shadow behind her. Fun. I thought it would be nice to add that. She did have a little necklace on. I like that. It helps. It's very subtle, but it breaks up the neckline. Do you have a favorite?
No, I like the skin tones in the second one better.
Okay.
I love the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, the glasses on top of the head are great. She was originally thinking about leaving that out, but I'm glad she left it in. I think it's a nice addition. Good job. I like the way you lost the edges of the hair. And yeah, your skin tones are great. Wow. Wow. Wait till you see this.
Oh, that's so.
Oh my God.
That's beautiful.
It looks like a photograph.
This looks like something old, dated, antique-y, doesn't it?
Wow. Show it better on the other.
Oh.
That's gorgeous. It reminds me of a Rembrandt. I just,
Yeah.
of a master painting.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
She sure didn't sweat the background.
gosh.
This, look at this. Look at this eyelet lace here.
Yeah, better not script that white flower.
And the other thing is look at the beautiful grays. She's captured the shadow so beautifully. And she charged the colors together in this background. And that's why they're so velvety. This is a wet into wet. You wet it first and then put the color and then charge color on top of color. And so she mixed it on the paper, wet. And that gives that beautiful velvety between the cool and the warm. And then she kept the edges crisp on the sun side and lost them on the shadow side. So it really, just unbelievable.
I wish I had.
We're really proud of you.
You must have started this at home, because you couldn't have done it.
No, I haven't done anything else.
This, isn't this bad? This is Lindy.
That's adorable.
She's been painting all her grandkids walking away. Now she's gonna paint them coming towards her. Great job.
Nice job on the hair.
This is unbelievable. Look at this. You've got to see this. Look at the skin tone, the light and dark. This would be a really fun one to do as a portrait all by itself, just the hair, you know.
And just the eye peeking out, I mean, you can just, oh.
You
wow.
guys had the best subjects to work with. I'm just tickled with the paintings. But good job. You gotta keep at it now. You're on a roll. Okay, then just to have a little fun today.
I think there's one here.
Oh, yes, we gotta see that. Thank you. Oh my gosh, get ready, get ready. Oh, God. This is jade. Oh my gosh. Don't you feel like you know these kids? They've done such a good job. It's like you've picked up their personalities. My gosh.
Well, if you look at the grandma, and
Yeah.
look at the picture, it's kind of like seeing a young version of the grandma.
That's true. I see us.
I mean, really, she looks so much younger.
That's true. I see a lot of things. Oh my gosh. Well, there you have it, folks.
I have more suggestions with that one.
I love the background and how, right in the corner, you have some of that orange, or the burnt orange reflecting right up in the corner. I just love your background.
This was another one that she stared at, that no hair and no background most of the day. And then got busy and did the hair, which she did a fabulous job.
Yes.
Fabulous. See, look at the sun side, crisp, shadow side, lost. And then I loved her hair the way it was, but it wasn't really jade. So she said, I don't know what to do. She's not a blonde. I said, just wet the hair, make a glaze using the Quin burnt orange and the cobalt, and just glaze, make a real thin glaze and just glaze it over and see if that works. And it did, obviously, because you like it,
Yeah.
and it's now better matched to this little gal.
Do you do it wet into wet, or is it dry into wet?
You can do it either way. I like to do it with hair. I like to do it wet.
Okay, wet into wet.
Just depends what you're glazing. But if you need crisp edges in some areas, of course, you just wet exactly the area you want the color to go. And then the background, it was a big decision to do something neutral, to do something warm, something cool, something gray. And it just came to her that she wanted it cool. She wanted it in the same blue as this, because see, this is kind of a busy fabric. So just to pick out that version into gray, what it does is it pulls the subject forward, and then the background just becomes lost. I think you made a great choice for the
Well, and then
background.
Karlyn said add Windsor orange, and then that grayed the blue down, the cobalt.
Yeah, I love that, how the corner of it,
Yep.
how that comes into
Yep,
the.
and then you can push it between warm and cool. Oh my gosh, I'm proud of you guys. Well, then you needed a little break, so we got busy. We took an app, Pencil Sketch, and we actually just took photos and ran the photos into the Pencil Sketch app and printed them out in a matter of seconds.
Wow.
And how fun. This is Josie's husband.
We all know Doc.
Oh God, is that good? And she just had a little fun with the colors, and nice job. Why, he's a good looking dude there. And then we've got,
that came all across it.
we've got a little story on this one.
Hey, we know him. Oh, cute.
So I did not subject, subject is exactly the right word. I did not submit my drawing, or my painting, which I will show you when I'm done. When I was in college, a good friend, Jim Hayden, had taken Greek, and he really did not want to be in the Greek class. And at the end of the course, Dr. Okromovich, who was from Ukraine, he said, Hayden, he said, I tell you something. He said, I give you passing grade if you promise, doctor, never to take another Greek course. And Hayden more than agreed that he would promise that he would never take another Greek. I promised Karlyn I will never do any kind of a thing that has to do with painting some kind of a photograph and putting it on paper. I kept fooling around with this thing, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I will give a quick show to everybody. You may not have a chance to look real close.
I still like it.
I like it.
Yeah, well, not if you get close. At any rate, so that's the thing that I'm going to submit for the class to see.
Oh, that's cute.
We gotta see the cloud.
We get to see you in your
You do not
collar.
want to see the cloud. Kate can wear the outfit sometime and show you the real thing.
And look at, this this is, Lindy's got another one that she started.
No, not me.
No,
Oh.
that's Kate.
That's mine.
Katie.
That's the one that is, I've got such dark shadows.
Oh, yeah, of
Show
course,
me-
that's
I've got the
Katie.
picture, I've got the picture.
Here's the guy.
So you can see how dark his body's.
Oh.
I think it's off to a great start.
Yep, I would say.
Yeah, so
Let's
this
get
is,
the
you know,
hair
the
in.
mother wash and then the next wash, and then a third or fourth wash.
Now keep at it. I think it's gonna work. Absolutely. And then, these are the funky ones from this afternoon.
Oh, God.
This is Peggy.
It looks just like a pig. Except you don't have your glasses on. No, it's true.
Actually, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
So it's a combination of paint and collage.
I got some acrylic in there too.
Mixed
I love
media.
that screen thing, can you do that on the other picture?
I love stuff like this. The lettering.
It says up there, a date to remember.
Oh.
That
That's
sums it
fun.
up, doesn't it?
It does, it will be a date to remember.
Here's another one that just got off to a great start.
Oh my. So cute.
Is that ever sweet? Whose is this?
Jam.
Jam, that's right. Oh my
Love
gosh.
that, yeah.
So cute.
And these are mostly from the app. Cause we had to have a little. And this, I love it. This is Spike. And what birthday was
It's
this?
the 80th.
His 80th. Oh my gosh, unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
So what are you gonna do with that? You gotta do something fun with that one.
Oh, I think I'll send it to his kids.
Oh, it's perfect.
Perfect.
Without telling him?
Probably, yeah. It was a surprise party, so there should be a surprise.
That's right.
It's awesome.
That is
Oh,
cute.
that is really sweet. And this is lovely.
Oh.
They just went outside and I know it. They just went outside and snapped the picture and then put it into the pencil sketch app and found the one that had the vignette going around. And she barely started doing some painting on it. It's very subtle at this point. But I think it's a great photo. And you know what I like about that pencil sketch
I love
app?
the flowers around.
You took that one.
Okay.
Yeah, the pencil sketch app, it takes away all your wrinkles and everything. It's amazing.
And that one's done, right?
But we'd like to thank Barb.
Yes.
for-
Yes,
for
thank
doing
you,
this.
Welcome.
So, because if it was me taking it, it would be like straight on and not too exciting, so thank you.
Great. Here, is this another photo you took?
Yeah.
Isn't this wonderful? Oh,
I love the tape.
I like that
This-
one.
I like
this,
that one.
no, this was a photo put into pencil sketch and made into totally black and white.
That's
And now
cool.
she's been putting in some newspapers and some of the tape, that washi tape. And it could quit at any moment. She just happened to have her name tag on Mary Beth. And that's,
It's already signed.
they just stepped outside and took this photo and reduced it to this black and white. I love it. And I was telling her this would be a
That is.
beautiful image to use on an invitation to a show or a party, or, you know, join me in my studio for classes. I think it's perfect.
It's way fun. Oh, that's funny.
And here's another cool one. This is Jill's grandson, or, yeah, grandson. And no, it's not upside down. He's a character. This is, see, it's a stool and he's spinning around.
Oh, okay.
What's really beautiful about this is the abstract quality of it.
Yeah.
The strong dark, and that's why I like that pencil sketch app, because it gives me ideas. I love to abstract things, and the hardest thing there is to take a subject and abstract it. And so this helps to give you some ideas. And you know, you might decide to paint them and maybe decide to put in a strong dark like that, because I like a path of dark that leads you through the picture. To me, that's important, not just spotty darks all over, but darks that
I have
connect.
a title for it.
please get your feet off the wall. Even though he's spinning the.